Fear is a barrier you build yourself, and love is the key to breaking it down. In times of uncertainty, it's easy to let fear dominate our decisions and hold us back. But every time you choose fear, you give away your power to create the life you deserve. In this radio show, Dr. Wayne Dyer challenges listeners to imagine their ideal future and live as though it's already happening. He shares transformative insights on manifesting dreams, finding inner peace, and rejecting excuses that limit our potential. By moving from ego to purpose and from fear to love, Dyer inspires us to embrace a mindset that opens doors to fulfillment. The life you dream of begins the moment you choose love over fear. Special thanks to our partners at Hay House for giving us this content exclusively on our YouTube channel. To see more great content on their channel, check out the description below.
And how are you, Dr. Dyer? How's it going?
It's going great. I'm on Maui for another couple weeks, and then I'm going to San Diego to do the PBS show the new show that's going to air on Excuses Be Gone, and then from there up to Toronto for I Can Do It. If you're listening in Canada or get nearby and would like to come, it's going to be a great conference that first weekend in April, and then from there to Calgary on the 6th of April, and then back here to Maui. So,
and then you'll also be in San Diego for the I Can Do It in May.
At the end, the beginning of May. I think it's the 1st or 2nd of May.
May 1st.
That weekend as well, which is a wonderful thing. Lots, about 30 speakers, and a great event. So those of you out there watching and listening, and if you're watching...
So you're resting up now.
I don't know about resting up, but I just did a Bikram yoga class. I just came out of it, and that's 90 minutes of intense workout and heat. And when I leave this show, I go into the ocean for an hour swim. So I'm trying to get myself into maximum shape for that kind of traveling I'm going to be doing.
Yeah, I've done the Bikram before. It's pretty intense.
It really is. I used to go out and run 8 miles in order to get that kind of workout. Now you just stand there on a mat.
And just sweat.
You don't have to go anywhere. Yeah, you just come out soaking wet and get just as much of a workout. And it's an ancient practice. I'm a big supporter of yoga. I had chronic back pain to a point where they were talking about possible surgery and so on. And yoga just healed it for me. I'm 4 years pain-free now because of this yoga, which I do 6 to 7 days a week.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of Bikram studios popping up. There's a couple here in San Diego. Well, you'll probably find it when you come here.
Oh, yeah, I do them wherever I go.
Is.
Wherever I go, all around the country, I do Bikram yoga. Bikram's a good friend of mine. In fact, when I did the movie premiere, have you seen the movie?
Absolutely.
You have?
I went to the big premiere with the whole gang here at Hay House.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I didn't see you there, but I didn't see anybody. I was just totally mobbed. But Ambition to Meaning, which we're changing the title to The Shift beginning next month.
Yeah, I noticed that. I'm looking at the flyer for Excuses Be Gone, the event you're doing in Maui, and I noticed it says The Shift Expanded Edition. And why did you decide to change the title? Was it just easier, do you think, for people to remember?
I think a lot of people couldn't remember the title. Ambition to Meaning sounded, and it also sounded too much like it was a documentary or maybe even a lecture, and it's nothing like that. It's a drama. It's a drama of 3 consecutive stories all running and showing how some of the teachings, that not just some of the teachings, that basically the essential teachings of my life, and showing people how to move from the ego to feeling more fulfilled and having a life of meaning. And it's really what I wanted to just speak just a tad about this morning. I've been starting my radio shows with this because it feels to me like the entire planet now has become almost under a blanket of fear. And, this is times are very, very different now. When a recession hits, in America, they say if America gets a cold, then the world gets the flu. And what happens is, because we are so interconnected right now, as you and I are talking, I mean, there are people listening in Africa and in Australia and England and Japan and Singapore, I mean, all over the planet. And there is no such thing anymore as just something that is local. So when enough of us begin to think these fearful thoughts and have them pushed at us all the time about especially this global meltdown financially and so on, that it becomes almost like a worldwide fear influenza, if you will. And it's really important for us to begin to be the people. Like right now, there's thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people listening right now on this show. And we have an opportunity to be the new seeds, if you will, for creating a consciousness of confidence and love and eliminating this idea of fear and that things are going to get worse. Don't ever put your thoughts on how terrible things are going to be unless you want to align with that kind of a consciousness and then create it, which is exactly what is happening on the planet today. And I think we can make that shift. And so the shift is something I think not only that takes place in this film, when people move from ego and power to a sense of meaning and purpose. But we can do this on our planet as well and make that shift. And my ambition on this film is to have 10 million people in the United States and Canada watch this film. And that, I think, will create a critical mass so that we can begin to have people begin to see that we can make these shifts within ourselves, in our own lives, in our own businesses, in our own relationships. And we can also tend to make that then shift outward towards influencing and impacting those around us. So
well, you can watch a preview on the website, dyermovie.com. You can watch a free preview of the movie, The Shift. And I'm glad that you kind of brought it down to a personal level, because you're so right. I was just at a party with a bunch of people, a 40th birthday party last weekend, and that was the first thing everybody asked me. Are you okay? Do you still have your job? But you're so right. It's all around you.
It doesn't make any difference where you go. I mean, it's like you just overhear conversations. It doesn't matter whether it's in the yoga studio or whether it's, in restaurants or on the bus or wherever. You can almost see everybody's like terrified. They're worried about, not having enough, and that everything is going to disappear on them. And the fact is that we're all fine. This planet is fine. If all we need to do is create more love in our hearts, and we can all work towards supporting each other. And I think this kind of a downturn economically is just a way of cleansing. It's just a cleansing process. It's cleaning out. There was so much greed there, and so many people living way beyond their means and taking out mortgages that they couldn't afford. And this is a cleansing process to get us back to a sense of responsibility. And there's 300 million of us in the United States alone, and there's 6.5 billion of us on the planet. That's a lot of people to feed, and that's a lot of cars that have to be driven, and that's a lot of clothes that have to be manufactured, and endlessly, and phones and so on. If people stop buying cars now, they're going to wear out. We'll buy cars right down the road. It's all fine. I mean, it's like that's sort of the message I want to send to people. So.
It's such a great message to start out the show with today, because I'm looking at the calls coming in, and I'm seeing a little fear out there. So maybe you can
there's lots of it.
Smooth some people
let's see if
over.
we can dispel some of it. Let's take a few calls.
Let's go to Rachel. She's in Brooklyn, New York, on line 2. And Rachel, welcome to the show. You're on with Dr. Wayne Dyer.
Hello. Yes. Hi. I'm Dr. Dyer.
Hi, Rachel.
Thank you for taking my call. Well, what happened is that I'm in a transition in my life. I'm going to be 35 next month, and I've been doing nursing, registered nurse, for a year, and I just started a job, and I got sort of laid off, fired, and I'm sort of like using this time, instead of like thinking immediate, let me rush and get a job, and I'm scared of being broke or whatever, and sort of taking the time to think. I'm thinking about going to med school. But the thing is, when I was doing my undergrad, I was on my own, working and so on. I was in the pre-med route, and I just ended up changing majors and getting out of school and then going back for nursing. So now at 35, I'm sort of like, oh my God, am I too old? But I really feel that's where my spirit is.
Absolutely.
To be a doctor. And I want to go back to, my parent country, and to Haiti, and then help out there.
How long would it take you to go through medical school?
Well, I would say about the application process, 2 to 3 years tops. And then, and then after that, the 4 years of med school, and then the training after that.
So we're talking about 6 years?
7, let's say about 6 to 7 years.
Okay,
but I also want a family.
Okay, well, let me just ask you something. And how old will you be in 7 years if you don't go to medical school?
I'll be 42.
And how old will you be in 7 years if you do go to medical school?
Same.
Yeah, it's the same. And they always say, how come? Because, that idea that, in my new book, Excuses Be Gone, that's one of the big excuses, that I'm too old, or I'm too young, or I can't afford it. There's 18 of them that I go through, the most common excuses that people use to keep themselves, and we come up with a paradigm, and I can't wait for people to read this book, because I'm so in love with it. I just recorded it, the entire thing. And so the idea that you're too old is just something that you just toss out. You are the age that you are. And if you have an inner kind of vision that you would like to, pursue this, even if you just take it a part way, and whatever it is, it's like if you just go into it with this kind of a knowing and an attitude, you'll be a medical doctor at the end of that time. And did you say you're from Haiti? Is that what I heard you say?
Yes, I was born here, but I grew up there.
Yeah, so that, I mean, where in the world do people need competent, trained physicians more? Is there a place on the planet that is in more need of that than Haiti?
Yeah, we need it.
Yeah, so, I mean, when you think about that, so now you're talking about family. Are you married?
No. No.
So you'd like to have a family. So what is your vision about having a family?
I would like to have a partner, be married, have a family, just, you know.
Then are you holding that vision?
What do you mean by holding? Am I?
Well, because it sounds to me like you're afraid that it won't happen.
Yes.
And more of your energy is on it's not going to happen, and it also conflicts with if I want to go to medical school and I've got these desires, and then so one or the other is impossible, so I can't have it all. I can't have my dream.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Yeah. So and that's why you attract more of that. And what I'm asking you to do here is to make a shift, to create a new shift. Have you seen my movie?
No, actually, I have to see it online. Yeah.
Ambition to Meaning. Would you like a copy?
Wow. Yeah. Great.
Okay, so before you hang up, make sure you leave your address, and I'll have a copy sent out to you today. You'll have it this week. It'll be a gift from me. And it's really about making this shift, this from fear about that I can't have it all or that I can't create it all, to being able to hold that vision, whatever it is. See yourself as a mom. See yourself in love with somebody else. See yourself going to school. See yourself, why not hang on to all of that? Why would you ever want to have a thought that says, I can't do this, or it's impossible, or because I'm too old, or I'm a woman, or whatever it might be, that I can't make these things happen? Because every time you hold a thought that is inconsistent with what it is that you would like to dream, the words that I have by my bed over and over again, assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. To make your future dream a present fact, assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Start to feel yourself. How would it feel? Imagine in your own imagination if you had a partner that you were in love with, that if you had a child, and if you were going to medical school, whatever it is, how would you feel if all of that were happening? Right now,
elated.
Yeah. Elated, perfect word, elated. So now what you can do, because your imagination is your subconscious mind, you can create anything you want in your imagination, and then you go to that feeling of feeling elated. You use the word. Every time you think about whether this is possible or not, go to that feeling. And as I've been saying the last few weeks on the radio show, the last 5 minutes before you go to bed at night, before you go to sleep at night, rather, just get yourself to that state of feeling elated. See, your subconscious mind, Rachel, cannot make a distinction between what is real, what is happening out there, and what you imagine in your mind. So if you use your mind to create for yourself in your imagination the vision that you hold for yourself, then go to that feeling for an entire 8 hours every single night. Your entire subconscious mind will marinate in this whole concept of I can create anything that I want. Or you can use the last 5 minutes as you get into bed at night, and you pull the covers up and you start to go to sleep, reviewing all the things that aren't happening and all the reasons that you're unhappy and all the things that you can't do. And then your subconscious mind gets to marinate in all the things that you can't do all night long. And lo and behold, and you manifest and you create exactly, that's how manifestation takes place. It doesn't take place necessarily through the thoughts. It takes place through the body, and the body is where you experience emotions. Your thoughts are just in your mind. You want to get to those feelings and feel elated every time you think about it, and it'll be on its way. That's it. I don't have anything else to say to you. And nice to see you, Dr. Rachel, in taking care of people in Haiti, having your babies, your own babies, having someone that you love. It's all perfect.
And I know we've mentioned this before, but I came in today and who's here, Louise, and just the perfect example of someone not letting age or anything stand in the way. And if it wasn't for her starting Hay House in her 60s, then we wouldn't be here.
Absolutely. Louise Hay is my hero, one of my total heroes, because, she's 82 years old. She's going to be 83 this year. And Hay House is in their 22nd year, and she started it when she was 61. Okay, started the largest publishing. I started it with one little book, and it grew and it grew and it grew. You Can Heal Your Life, and you never let age be. I'm too old is one of the excuses. Inexcuses be gone. So. All of you out there who use any of the excuses, absolutely, it's just a number.
In the last call, our caller was asking about trying to get things moving and bring things into her life, and whether or not she was making the right decision if she was too old. And, we're getting people that are calling in asking about how to manifest things. So let's go back to Sarah, or let's go to Sarah on line 3 and get her on here to talk to you. Hi, Sarah,
Hello?
you there?
I'm here. How are you?
Good. You're
Hi,
on
Sarah.
with Dr. Wayne Dyer.
Oh, Dr. Dyer, it's just an honor to speak with you. Oh, you're just
Thank
one of
you.
my heroes, and this is just really filling my heart with joy right now.
Oh, that's my job. That's my
Yeah.
job. I'm a heart filler with joy.
Well, here's my question. I've been studying your work for several years now, and I'm able to manifest things in my life, and I understand how it works, and I believe it because I've done it. I manifested my apartment, the exact apartment I wanted. I was able to manifest. Cups of coffee are so easy to manifest for me, and free gym memberships to like the most exclusive places, and yet I can't seem to manifest the career and the life that I want for myself, which is I'm a writer, and that's who I am, and I really believe I'm to write, and that's my purpose, and I just want to write and travel and see the world, and I just keep hitting blocks. Like I can't seem to get out of the same type of jobs and making the same amount of money, and I'm just always kind of stuck where I am. I can't travel, and I was wondering if you could try to help me figure out why I am able to manifest little things, but yet the most important things to me I can't seem to manifest.
Because the answer to that is, what if you couldn't? This is a big part of the Excuses Be Gone paradigm. I can't wait for you to read that book.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, that's coming out in May. What if the question that you just asked me, why can't I manifest big things? Okay, that was the question, right?
Correct.
Let me just ask you this question. What if you couldn't have that thought? What if it was impossible? Somehow your reality shifted and it was impossible for you to ask that question or to think that thought. What would it feel like for you? What would happen for you if you couldn't think that thought? What thought would you have to think in place of that? You got to think something in that moment. So what would you think instead of I can't manifest big things? What would be the opposite of that? Since you're not allowed to think that right now, you're just creating a reality. What would you think?
It would be I can.
I can manifest big things.
Big things in my life. Correct.
I will manifest big things in my life. I am manifesting big things in my life right now. Let's look at what you mean by big things. You identified big things like being able to travel, being able to write, not having the same kind of jobs that pay the same. Those are your words, right?
That's right.
So big things for you would be being able to travel, having the right kind of job, and so on. Let me give you a different definition of big things, okay?
Okay.
Sarah, you are healthy is a really big thing. You have an opportunity to improve the quality of life for another human being. You have within you the capacity to serve and make this planet a better place, a cleaner place, a nicer place. You have the capacity to send the love that you have inside of you and the abilities that you have that you've shown in these little things. You have the capacity to be able to illustrate and demonstrate that and write about it and talk about it. And you have all of that is yours. And the biggest thing going at all, Sarah, that you have is you have the ability to have a sense of inner peace right now. And if I gave you a choice, if I said I've got two wands, and one in each hand, and in my left hand I have wand A, and with wand A, you can have anything you want. You can have anything you want. You just wave that wand, and it will show up for you. You want a BMW in your driveway, you want to go to Cyprus, you want whatever it is, it's going to show up there. Okay, or in lieu of wand A, in my right hand with wand B, I'm going to say to you, you have the option to feel good and to have a sense of inner peace for the rest of your life. No matter what comes down the pike at you, no matter what handles, what difficulties, what struggles, whatever show up in your life, you are going to be at peace within yourself. Which wand would you take?
Wand B.
For sure, right? For sure.
Absolutely.
So that's what an excuses be gone life is really about. It's like, and that's what ambition to meaning is about. It's about moving to a place where you're just at peace, no matter what happens, whether your kids throw up on you, or whether somebody leaves you, or whether the economy goes into the toilet, or whatever it might be. I'm at peace. I'm at peace. I'm at peace. And then when you're at peace, the only thing you have to give away is what you have inside of you. You can't give away what you don't have, so you can only give away what you do have. And then you'll start manifesting big things. The big things that will really make an impact. Like this morning, after yoga class, I walked through, I went over to get some raspberries. I have raspberries every day. And there was a girl in there, her name was Rachel. And she just... she said, she recognized me, blah, blah, blah. And I walked her over to my car, and I gave her a copy of Ambition to Meaning. Well, I mean, she lit up like a Christmas tree. I mean, it was the happiest. She just, you're giving me this? This is just a present? And I said, I have the ability within myself to be able to do that. And I carry a case of these around with me, and people come up to me. I just hand them. I said, this is a movie I think you'd like to watch, and so on. And I think that's really a big thing. Really a big thing.
That's the point of living, I think.
There you go.
No, I mean, go on, sorry.
No, I want to hear from you. I want to hear your reaction to that.
Well, that's ultimately what I want is to find inner peace and to share and to give the love that I have. Because I feel like the love inside of me is infinite, and that I can love everybody.
It comes across. I feel that way. That's why I spoke to you this way, because I feel it, and I don't even know where you are, where you are physically. I don't even know what state you're in, but I can still feel it from your voice and from what it is that you want. And also from the demonstration, you see, I always talk about, when I talk about God, and people who are very sick and they have tumors, or, they feel like they're going to die, or they've got bad arthritis, or they're blind, or whatever it is, I say to them, it is just as, if you talk about God being able to have the capacity to heal, that is just as easy for God to heal that tumor that you have as it is for God to heal a hangnail. I mean, for God consciousness, it's like, and that's what I would say to you, because God to me isn't something that's outside of us. It's that highest place within that we return to when we become a spiritual being. That it is just as easy to manifest tickets to a theater or a membership in a gym or a cup of coffee as it is to manifest anything else. It's just that you have put a judgment on one as being better than the other. And if you can get to a place where you understand that it's all the same, if you're doing it, to me, it's like finding a penny or finding a dime. The other day, I found $5. A $5. Every time I find a penny, I always figure that's $1 million. It's because it's just a symbol of abundance, and that it was placed right there in front. But $5, that's like finding $50 million, and so $50 million is probably on its way. That's just the way I look at it. But I mean, I keep, when I find a $5 bill just laying there saying, "Here I am. Here's $5." I think about what that was like when I was a kid delivering the Detroit News and the Detroit Free Press. That's how much I made in 2 weeks, and there it was handed for. So it's like the fact that you're already doing it. The amounts are just the ego part. That's the part you want to get away from. Have you seen the movie?
I haven't seen the movie yet. No.
Would you like to?
I would love to.
Great, it's on its way. Just before you hang up.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and watch it, and you'll see what I'm talking about in that film. I think you'll love it. Where are you located?
I'm in Jackson Heights, New York. I'm in Queens.
Oh, you're in Queens. Oh, my goodness. I taught at St. John's University for 7 years, right down the road from you.
I know you did. I'm so grateful for the snow because I was able to call you today because I didn't have work.
See, now you're getting a free movie on top of that.
Yes.
I got to run, Sarah. Thank you for your beautiful call. I hope you'll listen to that. Replay what we talked about today. Re-listen to this show. They have it somehow. There's some way you can do that.
I will.
There's a lot of stuff in there that I was saying. Yeah, in the archives.
Okay.
And I also want to give thank you very much, Sarah. I want to give a little plug out there also for that cruise that I heard them on the break talking about. I'm going to be on that cruise to Alaska. And those glaciers up there are melting at a rapid rate. If you're even wondering if you should do something like that, I'm going to have my entire family. All of my kids are going to be on that boat.
That's the I Can Do It at Sea.
Yeah, the I Can Do It at Sea, which I always think that's a great title. I Can Do It at Sea. But I won't go into that. Anyway, I'm going to be on there. All of my children, I believe every single one of them are going to be on the cruise, all 8 of them. So it's going to be a one, and I'm going to lecture twice on that as well. So,
well, we got Sarah, our previous caller, a copy of the movie. I wanted to go to Catherine because she had spoken to you previously, and she's since seen the movie, so she wanted to comment on it. We've got about 4 minutes left of the segment, so let's go to Catherine in Clearwater, Florida.
Hi, Dr. Dyer.
Hi.
Thank you so much. I was the last caller. You had 47 seconds left.
Oh, yes.
You kept telling Summer, or asking politely, please, let me take one more call, Well, I was that one more call. And in that 47 seconds, you addressed very, very, how can I say, quickly, inspiration. I got the movie, and I spent all weekend. And I have to tell you and share with you how it touched me, how it moved me, and the depth of the movie that I came to such awarenesses. And one of the awarenesses is I had a shift at 39 and 40. And at this time, I was most productive, most joyous, most able to serve, and most aligned with, I believe, was my Dharma. And I knew this because one of the first things I wrote was The Thorns of My Rose, which is a beautiful poem 21 years ago about roses. So the theme of roses, it's
all
smell of
throughout
roses,
the movie. It's all over the movie, isn't it? Yes,
and I believe in my heart that brought from the depth of my being what happened. And then fear came in. And I don't know why, and I don't know how, because I was thriving with a small TV show and a column and my own environmental newspaper. Something happened, and I closed down. As quick as the rose opened, it shut. And I watched this movie, and I saw the ambition to meeting, and I saw the shift. And I remember you asking, maybe, to rename it The Shift. Well, I don't know. I think ambition to meaning, The Shift, is like the whole title. And what I was most moved by were the character studies, the beautiful character studies, where you took them, and then the interview with the filmmaker, how you developed them, and how the shift was so peacefully and beautifully portrayed. And many, I've been reading your things and listening, many things you experienced as a human being. Remember, you said you always had an inner knowing about prosperity. You used to save bottle caps and cash them in. Well, I saw the homeless man saving the plastic bottles and giving it to the man that was so distraught, so damaged by his ego, and then asking, do you have any money? And the man gives it back to him. These were hard for me. Such depth. I just haven't seen anything like this movie before. And I went within my heart and allowed everything to come forward. The next day I went to Unity in Clearwater. They have a congregation of 1,400 people. And the whole message from the minister was fear. Fear about not having money for the church. Fear. And I went up to her and I said, I just watched this beautiful movie by Dr. Dyer. I would like to propose a screening because this is all about going from ambition to meaning to making the shift.
Going from fear to love. We're going from fear to love, and it can happen in our individual lives.
But for me, I don't know what happened, Dr. Dyer. I don't know how I fell prey to the fear.
Yeah, but you know what? Even when you do fall prey to the fear, you have to be grateful for it as well.
And Dr. Dyer, let's just jump right to the phones. We've got a lot of people jammed here wanting to talk to you.
Okay.
And I'm seeing a lot of Florida people today. I don't know what this is, but let's go to Joan, line 2, who has a question calling from Gainesville. And you're on with Dr. Dyer today.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm a little bit nervous.
You're nervous?
Yes. Well, I just have a question.
I'm a pretty scary guy. Watch out. I'm gonna get you.
I've met you before a couple of years ago.
Have you?
Yeah, down in Orlando.
Okay.
It was Inspiration, I believe it was.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm dealing with some personal issues with one of my daughters, and she's going through a very difficult time. And she called me and said that she's ending a 10-year marriage, and that she also is gay.
Mm-hmm.
And I my heart just totally went out to her because I know that she's going through such a difficult time. And I just want to be able to be there for her because this is, going to be a difficult adjustment for her and for her husband, who, she's really more concerned about him than she is herself because she just kept telling me that. I'm worried about, how it's going to be for him. And I
would think as a man that I don't think she has to worry too much about him, really. I mean, if the reason that she's decided that she's going to do this is because she's, discovered or feels that her real nature is that she's gay, then I don't think he would be threatened by that. Do they have children?
No. No. And I told her, that's probably, the best, that she needs to be true to herself and true to him as well, because she's living a lie, and, this is probably what's best.
Has she told him yet?
Yes.
She has. And what was his reaction?
Well, it just happened, so that's kind of, where she was yesterday, so.
Yeah.
The other thing is that, they'll continue to, be together because of the, the financial situation, which is kind of hard because, living in the same house. I told her that, to be able to respect each other's, give each other the time, and respect each other's way of, she's going to be dealing with it in a different way than she is, I feel like. And, that they need to respect each other's space. And, I think maybe it would be easier if they weren't seeing each other on a daily basis, but because they are, that...
that will evolve. That will evolve perfectly. I mean, all of those details are things that we just get ourselves all worked out about who's going to live where and what's going to have. The fact is, we're talking about something that affects the heart and the soul here. And if this man loves her, and if they've been married for 10 years, he must.
Yeah.
He's going to love her through this. And as her mother, that would be the only thing. That would be the only advice I would give you as well, just to love her through it.
Well, I do, and that's the first thing I told her too. That no matter what decisions she makes in life, that we're always here for her, and that she's as beautiful today as she was yesterday, and the day she was born.
And he will too. I can just sense it already. He's going to love her through this as well.
I think so. My heart breaks for her because I know she's such a compassionate person, and she... Oh,
but my heart doesn't break for her at all. Let me tell you something. My heart is open and joyous for her.
Well, my heart breaks for her because of the way she feels like she's going to be a burden to him.
She's not going to be. She's not going to be. She's going to finally stop living a lie.
Right.
She's been trying to fit in. She's been trying to do things the way she's supposed to do them, quotes.
Right.
What has been laid out for her, what so many people use in the name of judgment and so on. And how old is your daughter?
37.
So she's probably known this since she was a very young girl.
I think so.
And just has been afraid, because it's only been in the last decade or so that you've even had the freedom to come out and say something like that. So for 20 years or so of her life, she was living a horrible lie. I'm happy for her, thrilled for her, and I believe that her husband is going to feel exactly the same way. He will not want her to ignore her nature in favor of nurturing him. That is not going to happen for him. He's going to love her through this.
Well, and I believe that too. I think that's why it was sort of a shock to my system, because I wasn't expecting it. But at the same time, I feel exactly the way you described.
I think it's a wonderful day. It's a wonderful day.
It's a blessing because she's no longer fighting the true feelings that she has.
Well, again, she has gone from fear to love.
That's right.
In the course it says there's only two emotions, fear and love, and everything that is fear cannot be love, and everything that is love cannot be fear. She's been living in fear, which means she hasn't had that love, and really the love for herself, where she's been in a state of denial and rejection, self-rejection and self-repudiation. She's been doing this, since she was a teenager, and she doesn't have to do that anymore. She's wide open. Let me send you and her. I'm going to send two. I'm going to send you a movie. Have you seen the movie?
Yes, I have.
Oh, good. Well, you're going to get another one. We're going to send you two of them, okay?
Thank you so much.
And send one to her and her husband, okay? And I think that, I congratulate her. I really do. Yeah, she's
thank
in a
you
good
so much,
spot. Go in the archives to this show and let her hear my reaction. Okay,
Okay, I sure
play it
will.
for her.
I really appreciate the call. And
Thank you, sweetheart. Thank you, Joan. God bless you in Gainesville.
And you had just mentioned earlier in the show about living your authentic self. And
Yes.
then interesting to get a call like that.
Yeah, that's and I think as a man, trying to project myself. If my wife had come to me and said that she was leaving me because she was gay or she was in love with someone, my first reaction would be I wouldn't be threatened at all by that. I would just want her to be loved. I would want her to be loved.
And
a lot easier than if she told me she was leaving me for a man. That would be then my male ego would get involved, and I'd be in
maybe a different reaction there.
A different reaction, yeah. But and I'm not like every man, but I think that man's going to be, and I think he's going to be happy too, and be able to ultimately find the love that's been missing in his heart as well.
Well, let's go to Margot. She's in Ontario on line 1. And thanks for joining the show. You're on with Dr. Wayne Dyer.
Well, hi. I got on. I am so excited I got on.
Good.
Yeah, I'm about 3 hours from Toronto. Oh, I'm so
what town?
glad. Pardon?
What town?
Amherstburg, Ontario.
Oh, I know where that is.
Right across from Detroit.
Yeah, I know exactly where it is. My mother was born in Hamilton, and my father was born in London, Ontario.
Oh, my
so
God.
I have lots of Canadian roots. Yeah, lots of family up there.
Yeah, I think the first time that I was ever inspired by you, Dr. Dyer, I was just a teen. I just had a baby. I was too young to be having this baby. And everybody was telling me what to do, and I bought this book called Pulling Your Own Strings. And that was the beginning of my journey. And I am so excited to be able to talk to you. Oh, my goodness.
Thank you. Where is that baby now?
Oh, that baby? She's married, has 2 children of her own, and she's got a wonderful husband. It's wonderful. Yeah, and I have 3 other children, too. And my baby now is 25, and she sings, and right now she's in the other room teaching other students to sing as well. Yeah.
Isn't that wonderful?
So my life went really well, and I'm sure you had a lot to do with that.
Thank you very much. The only thing I would disagree with you on is that when you said you were too young to have that baby, that baby came at the exact right moment, the exact right time. It's all divine timing, and that's always, I think, an important lesson for all of us.
Isn't that so? It is so. It's hard to see it that way at first, but there's a way of seeing it. Oh, my goodness. But I wanted you to inspire me today, and I think you already did, Sarah, and I liked Sarah's. I mean, I thought that was so inspiring.
Wasn't that a beautiful call? Yeah.
Yes. And I need to get out there, and I work with people. Well, actually, right now I have my grandmother. She's 96, living in my home with me.
Wow.
Yeah, I did.
What a wonderful opportunity to just practice serving and taking care of someone and being there for someone at that age. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Good for you. That's the work of angels. You're an angel. Are you coming to I Can Do It?
I want to. I definitely do. If I can get there, I certainly will. I know excuses be gone, but Grandma does come first. I just have to find someone that'll, stay with her. If I can get away, I'm going to do that. Yeah.
Why can't Grandma come?
Well, I don't know.
You might be surprised. I have a woman that comes every year that I spoke in Las Vegas. For every year she came. We stopped going to Las Vegas. We now do it in San Diego. But she was 102 the last time. She sat in the front row, and she was right there. My goodness, yeah. You'd be surprised. People. My mother is 93, and that's never stopped her from doing anything. She's an amazing woman. So. A lot of times we have these thoughts that a person is too feeble, and very often getting them out there and letting them see and do things and treating them as if they were fully functioning people, rather than someone who has to be an invalid or even has to be sort of extra nurtured and so on. She's probably a lot stronger than you may think she is.
Well, lately she's been kind of getting on. She's been I just had the oxygen people come and up her oxygen, but I have a power of attorney over me, so I have to go through him too. But that's an excuse too. I can see, but I am going to be there. I'm going to find a way to be there.
There you
sure.
go. You just changed from if I can and I might not to, I'm going to be there. Now I want you to come up and I want you to say hello to me. Have you seen the movie?
No, not yet. It's on my list to order for. I do my Amazon. You don't have to order it. It's on its way. We're going to send you a free one today. You.
Okay, everybody who got through today.
I'll share it with everyone that I can think of.
Oh, yeah, great.
Definitely. I got Louise's movie, and I shared that with everyone because I just think that was amazing, too. And
It was wonderful. Yeah. This is very different. This is really a drama. You know, I think you're going to really love it.
Yes, I'll love it. I know I will. I'm just so grateful to talk to you.
Well, thank you, Margot. It's nice to talk to you, too.
Oh, well, you have a great day. I'm going to.
I will.
Okay.
All right, my love.
Thanks.
We have a few minutes left?
Yeah, we've got about a minute 35, and we'll see what you can do.
Let's get one person in there. That person might be
Let's
waiting.
go to Shelley. She's on line 7 calling from Washington. And thanks for holding, Shelley.
Hi. Thanks for taking my call.
Hi, Shelley. We only have a minute, so go quickly.
I'll make it very quick. It goes kind of along with your prior call, not your last one, but prior to that. In a marriage, and I've been really coming to more of a peaceful place, but I really feel for the last years that my husband and I really shouldn't be together anymore. And the challenge is we have 2 kids, young kids. And I have made a commitment to myself that I would stay. But then comes into play all the things you think that where you should be in your life. And
look, you got to let go of the shoulds. Stop shoulding on yourself. You know, you've got to really let go of that. You have to go with your heart, and your heart will tell you what the right thing to do is. And you may be doing the right thing. It may be. But if you're living a loveless life and you're not feeling fulfilled, and each day you're going through your life feeling as if, you know, you're just doing what somebody else dictated for you, that's a recipe for a disaster, like a physical one. I mean, you're going to break down physically. So,
Dr. Dyer, welcome. Hello.
Thank you, Summer.
Hey, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Great. So, tell me, please, this is a show for me. How do we let go of stress and fear and start living the way we want?
Well, I've talked about this on many occasions, this whole idea of stress being an illusion, because it's just not something that exists in the world, and and it's one of the things that people are always constantly blaming something that doesn't exist on why they're unhappy, and why their blood pressure is up, on why they're getting ulcers, on why they're unhappy in their relationships, on why they can't get things done at work, why they're always being forced to do things that they don't want to do, why there's so much pressure on them, and so on. And the big answer to all of it is always this great big word, stress, or anxiety, or whatever. And the fact is, as I've said, if you take a container and go out into the world with an assignment to bring home a box full of stress, you'll never find any. So what there is in the world, though, are lots and lots of people who are thinking stressful thoughts. And stressful thoughts are, I think the thing to understand about them is that, first of all, is that they originate with us. That you, whoever you are, you're the source of your stress. These are choices that we make to process an unpleasant event in a way that is going to, be invasive in our lives, or going to be painful in our lives, and so on. But most people, what they do is they blame the outside forces for making their life stressful, which, of course, makes for more and more stress. So what they're doing is waiting for the economy to improve, or waiting for their spouse to change his or her behavior, waiting for the kids to grow up, waiting for a new political party in Washington, or whatever it might be. And there's this constant belief out there that if only the world were different, if only things weren't the way they were, then I wouldn't have to be so unhappy right now. And it's basically the source of almost all of our problems in all of our relationships. Basically, what people are saying is, if only you, when they're upset, when they're angry, when they're full of stress about something, what they're really saying is, if only you were more like me, then I wouldn't have to be so unhappy right now, or I wouldn't have to be miserable, I wouldn't have to be feeling stressful. But people aren't going to be like you. The world isn't going to be the way you think it should be or ought to be. And what you want to learn to do is get into a different place. And when, of course, the kinds of things that you can do to make that happen, included in such things as meditation, getting quiet, getting peaceful. I've just returned from practically an around-the-world tour, and had a lot of speaking engagements that I had to do. In addition to that, I had interviews to do and radio shows to do, and interviewers were sent to my hotel rooms in places like Dublin and London and all over the United States as well. And I can sit there and say to myself that, this is just a lot of stress on me, and why are the people always doing these kind of things? Or I can say to myself, I chose all of this. This is something that I opted for, and if I didn't want it to be here in my life, then I could do something about it. And if I want to change it, I still have that option as well. And I can have the option of just calling whoever it is and just saying I'm not able to do that, or it's too much, or whatever. And that little piece that Debbie Ford had on just before the show started, I think is really relevant. That whole willingness and ability to just say, no, this isn't something that I intend to take on. Thank you very much for offering me that opportunity. And you can do that very peacefully and very calmly. I have a chapter in The Power of Intention. It's chapter 11. And I think it's really very, very, very helpful to those of you listening if this is an area of concern in your life. It's called, "It is my intention to live a stress-free, tranquil life." And the fact is that when we have anxiety and when we have stress in our life, basically we've removed ourselves from our source. We've removed ourselves from God, because we come from a peaceful, loving, kind source. We come into this world and we take on these ideas that we have to do certain things, and other people's opinions are more important than our own, and we can't say no when people ask us to do things. And this is just a whole bunch of beliefs. And what is a belief? It's just a thought that you keep thinking over and over and over and over again until ultimately it becomes something that you think of as a truth. But it's not necessarily a truth. Many times those thoughts just don't have any basis in truth at all. Like, people won't respect me if I say no, or people will be unhappy with me if I say no. But the fact is that people respect you more when you say no than when you just automatically go ahead and do something that you don't want to do. So what I have done when I got back from this trip, and I always say that if I can get a picture of myself returning back to Maui and returning back to this place that I love so much, and being out on the beach and doing my running and practicing and tennis and all of these kind of things, that if I can get that picture in my mind, then what I'm going through at the time is much easier for me to enjoy it. So rather than sitting around, people say, well, you're 6-hour difference in time zones, you're 11-hour time zones off, and I say, I don't do jet lag. I just don't, because jet lag is just a thought that you think over and over again until it becomes a belief that you have to be stressful when you change time zones. So when I change time zones, I just remind myself what my friend Ram Dass said, just be here now, be here in this moment. So I'm now in England, or I'm in Ireland, or I've changed time zones. This is where I am, and I don't allow myself to think a thought that is going to interfere with that. Then I get on an airplane, and instead of getting on an airplane and saying, oh my God, all of these flights, and I've got to go through security, and I've got to go do all of this, I just change my mind about all of that and just decide that this is going to be a pleasant, lovely, nice, kind, fun experience. And to remind myself to not take myself so seriously. And in the Power of Intention, we call this rule number 6, which is don't take yourself so seriously about everything. Another thing that I remind myself of over and over again, and I just got this from a wonderful book written by Susan Monk Kidd back in the early 1990s called When the Heart Waits. She also wrote the Secret Life of Bees, which is a big popular book now. But in this book, When the Heart Waits, she speaks about the value of waiting, and talks a lot about how impatient we all are in our lives. We go to the drugstore, and there's one person ahead of us to get our prescription, and we think that we shouldn't be able to slow down, and that we should be there first. And we get in the highway, and somebody drives a little bit slow, and we want to get around them right away. You go to the post office, there's 5 people in front of you, and somehow this idea of just waiting, and every one of you who are mothers know that if you're going to have a baby, there's a waiting period. There's a 9-month period in which you just have to go through and let nature reveal its secrets by and by. And almost as if we've bypassed that whole automatic notion about ourselves that waiting and just being at peace and meditating and getting quiet are bad things, and that we should try to avoid them as much as possible and get to the front and get it fast. And the faster we do it, the better. You can see I even talk faster when I speak about it. So when I got back from this trip and all of that, I practiced that the whole time, and it was the best trip I've ever had in terms of my health. I didn't have any difficulty with, sometimes I get bronchial kinds of things. I changed my whole approach to the whole thing. I got back, and I decided I'm going to take up yoga. So I'm doing Bikram yoga. This is my third day in a row. And going in there and sweating and doing all of these things and trying to stand on one leg and move my other leg behind it and sit down and stretch my leg out to the... I can't do about 70% of what those other people are doing, but nevertheless, I'm there and I'm doing it, and I find that just doing 90 minutes of yoga every day is one of the most peaceful things, and all the things that stressed me out about so many things just aren't even a part of my life any longer. So those are some of my suggestions, and maybe we'll take some calls about them.
Wonderful. The best thing I heard in there is that stress is entirely self-created.
Exactly. There's none in the universe whatsoever, even a hurricane and all of that. It's like it's our reaction to it that causes us to have problems, and we always have a choice in what we think and how we process things.
Absolutely. Dr. Dyer, what do you say we go to Amita, I believe, or I'm probably mispronouncing that. Amita, she's in London, and she's been waiting on the line for you.
Hi there.
Amita, welcome to the show.
Hi, Dr. Dyer.
Hi there. How are you?
I'm very well. You are my guru. You are my mentor.
Oh, well, thank you.
I met you in London a couple of weeks ago, and it's a real honor to be able to speak to you.
Thank you. I love your city. You know what I discovered?
Can't wait to have you back.
You know what a cab driver told me?
Yeah.
He said in 1890, when they had horse and buggies to take people across the town, that you could actually go from one end of London to the other faster by horse carriage than you can today in a cab. So.
I believe he's absolutely right.
So many cars.
But no stress. But there's no stress with that. Amita, what's your question for Dr. Dyer today?
My question today is, I've read a lot of your stuff. I've heard so many of your audio tapes, and basically you're in the car, you're in the gym, you're everywhere I go. You're all I listen to.
Oh, well, thank you.
And I tried very hard to practice everything that you teach. But there's just this one thing that I can't seem to get over, and that is there's a person that I suppose I could say that I have a fear of in my life. And wherever she turns up or every time she phones, it's almost like fear grips me, and I think about the past and I think about things that she's done, and I just can't seem to get over that stage.
Is this a relative?
And, it's a relative of my husband's.
Relative of your husband's. Mm-hmm. And are you forced to see this person on a regular basis?
Well, it's her sister.
So it's your sister-in-law.
It's my sister-in-law, and we do get on sometimes, but beneath all of that, I suppose.
What kinds of things did she do that? I mean, just very quickly, that you are still hanging on to that were so troublesome or difficult for you in the past?
It's accumulated over 15 years, so there's a lot to go over.
Yeah, but what is it? Is it all verbal, or I mean, did she ever?
It's all verbal, and things like it stems from jealousy on her part, and things have been said, and.
Here's what I recommend you do. There's that you take out something and you laminate this. And you carry it around with you, literally laminate. You know what I mean when I say laminate?
Yes.
Okay. So you take it to one of those printer places, and you get it typed up beautifully. And I want you to write these words right out on this little card. I want you to carry it with you wherever you go for like the next 6 months for a year. And on there, I just want you to write the words, "What you think of me is none of my business." And just keep reminding yourself every day, just read that particular thought. Whenever the thought of your sister-in-law comes up, whenever her presence comes up, whatever it is what you think of me is none of my business. In other words, you are taking your power back. What you've done is you've given your power away. And by giving your power away, what you've done is you've said that what you think of me is agonizing for me, is upsetting to me, is stressful to me, is painful to me, is any number of these things. And the fact of it is that whatever she thinks of you, and I always say that, let's say that instead of her thinking and having said all of these terrible things over the last 15 years, what if she came to you one day and said, I used this example before, what if she said, last week you were this, but today you're a car, you're an automobile, and I want to put you down on all fours, and I'm going to put a funnel in your ear, and I'm going to pour gasoline into your ear. Would you be a car if she thought you were a car? Would you be a giraffe if she thought you were a giraffe? And, of course, your answer to that is, of course not. I'm what I am. And the fact is that you are what you are, and what she thinks of you is just, it's her problem. It's something for her to deal with. And it isn't even worth you giving 5 more minutes of your energy to. And as soon as you get that, as soon as you understand that, you'll see her as somebody who has the same kinds of concerns as you do. She came from the same place as you do. You share the same God that she shares. We all come from the same place, and she doesn't know how to be anything other than what she is. And now what will happen is you'll start just surrounding her with kindness and with love and with joy in your heart and forgiveness. And you'll be at peace because you're not making her opinions of you more important than your own opinions of yourself. And that's my advice. That's the best I can do.
What do you say, Amita?
Thank you.
Good?
Thank you. I will definitely go to the shops tomorrow.
Do it.
And I'll get that laminated.
And every time you then look at that little line, and it's a great line, what you think of me is none of my business. That's just not my business. My business is, making somebody else's opinion of you more important than your own opinion of yourself is the cause of your suffering. And as soon as you change that around and make your own opinion of you the most important thing, then you'll actually be able to love her, which will be freeing to you. It'll actually free you up.
Yeah.
All right, Amita.
I have actually tried to do this as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel that I keep going backtrack.
Because it's a habit, and it's just a habitual way of thinking over and over again. You believe that because somebody said nasty things about you, that your responsibility is to think those nasty things back and be upset and be hurt and so on. But again, think about our great spiritual masters. Think of Jesus. It's like, and when someone would say something bad, there's a story. I don't know if I have time. There's a story real quickly of. I think I've told it before on the air, but of the Buddha who had people follow him around who were always criticizing him, always finding fault with him, always saying terrible things about him, and always he would respond with love, and always he would respond with kindness. And finally, the devotees, they couldn't take it anymore. They said, "How could you be so kind in the face of all of this negative stuff that just keeps coming at you?" And what his response was, he said, "When someone offers you a gift, and you do not accept that gift, to whom does the gift belong?" And what he was really saying is, if someone offers you a gift of their anger or their bitterness or whatever, and you don't accept it, then who owns it? You don't own it. So why would you be upset with something that somebody else owns? And that's what you're doing. You're being upset with something that your sister-in-law owns instead of being happy with what you own.
Wow. Thank you.
Thank you, sweetheart. God bless you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so
very
much. Appreciate your call. Well, Dr. Dyer, we have just enough time to get Randy on the line from Tahoe, Nevada, and bring the question out, Randy, and then Dr. Dyer will answer it when we get back from the break. So welcome to the show.
Oh, it's Brandy.
Oh, Brandy, welcome.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I have been practicing the power of intention, power of focus and belief, and creating your life by that. And I keep getting roadblocks that when it seems like everything's flowing and it's happening, and I feel like, wow, it's, I'm really on track, it's flowing, then all of a sudden I get these big roadblocks where there's nothing I can do to make it continue to go forward, and it just ends.
You've got to give me an example. What do you mean, real quickly?
It's happened in all areas of my life. It's happened in relationship. It's happened in a business opportunity.
So what would be an obstacle that you just can't overcome? What would that be? I'm trying to think of what that might be.
Well, like, for instance, with the business partnership, everything was flowing, and then all of a sudden we were kind of getting into contract negotiations, and then there was just all of a sudden miscommunication that seemed to be happening that made
Hold it right there,
okay.
Brandy. So you get into these business kind of things, and these obstacles present, miscommunications occur, and you think that means what to you when that happens? That what you want to create isn't happening?
Yeah, I'm getting now discouraged that all this stuff that I've been studying and trying to live my life by doesn't really work because it's not been working for me. In the past 3 years, I've had 3 years of this happening consistently. It just kind of, everything just seems to blow up right after it's flowing, and then it just stops and it blows up.
Does it ever occur to you that you are attracting exactly what it is that you are putting out there? That this is not the universe doing that this is you doing that? I mean, I'm not like asking you to blame. I'm just saying it's what keeps showing up in your life. So the independent variable here is you. It keeps showing up. You keep maybe anticipating it, expecting it, not believing you're worthy of it, thinking that this is the way things always are going to go for you, whatever it might be. And there's almost like an anticipation that when we're going to get close to the edge, but we're never going to be able to jump in and really make this happen.
Well, I'm only getting to that point right now after my third year in the final straw.
Yeah, but I mean, as these things have happened in the past, have you processed them in such a way that you say, I needed to go through that? Like when you go through a divorce, or when you go through a bankruptcy, or when you lose a job, or when there's an accident or whatever, most people start, telling themselves, this is awful, this shouldn't have happened, but if you're at the place that I'm speaking to you from the power of intention, you would be saying to yourself, of course, this is what I needed to go through, that there's no mistakes in the universe, that my plan doesn't work, God's plan does, I'm going to listen to that one. I'm not going to judge it, I'm not going to tell myself that it should be something different. And it's like, and then you begin to attract an energy that says there's no obstacle that could possibly show up as this thing unfolds that could prevent the best outcome for me. There's nothing that could prevent the best outcome for me. I may not know what that best outcome is, but and it's on its way, and I expect it to continue. And it's like, and you create that kind of a mindset. And all I can say to you, Brandy, is that it works for me. I just don't anticipate things not working out. And I have some things, even right now in my own life, that haven't worked out exactly the way that I wanted them to work out. And I know that there's a greater plan at work here. And it's like I get to a place where I just suspend that, and I get into that thing that I was talking about at the beginning of the show, where I allow myself to be in a state of waiting and in a state of anticipation and a state of joy, of not trying to push the river and not trying to make something bigger happen, and not tell myself that something terrible has happened in the way of an obstacle. Then the obstacles disappear, and then you get past that, and you realize, so this is why. This is exactly why. I mean, 5 years ago, I was in just a miserable state in a relationship and what's going on and so on, and I thought perhaps that I could never be happy again. And today I'm deliriously happy, and I look back on what happened 5 years ago, and I understand exactly what was going on and why it had to go on, and I'm in a better relationship with everybody, including the person from 5 years ago and now and everything. And at the time, I just wasn't able to see the bigger picture, and that's what I'm asking you to look at. Look at the bigger picture. Don't give up. The source that created you is what's behind all of this. Be completely at peace with that, and whatever you want or looking for, anticipate that it's coming rather than that something's going to blow it up. That's my advice.
Oh, I hope that something does happen.
What about this relationship thing? What happens that you said something of relationship?
Well, I felt like I met that right person, and that we were brought together at the right time in the right place, and then all of a sudden the relationship seemed to change. He seemed to change, and it turned into this wonderful, beautiful relationship to a verbally abusive one that I just could not, have in my life.
Yeah, and you can't see the greatness in that and the joy in that and what you were taught there and so on. I mean,
I can't see the greatness of why, each relationship seems to, you think it's right, and it just seems to not be.
Yeah, except that when you are in what you think is a beautiful relationship, and then it turns out that somebody becomes verbally abusive, it's like it teaches you so much about entering into those kind of relationships in the future, meaning attracting those kinds of people. And before long, you won't even be those kind of people. You won't even allow them to show up in your life. It's like as soon as that the first little hint of verbal abuse that just starts to show up, the first little hint of disrespect or physical abuse or any of it, the first little hint of it, you are so now in touch with who you are and what you anticipate and what you are worthy of and what you're going to have in your life, and you have such a strong knowing about that you just very gently just move on and say, well, thank you, God. Thank you for letting me see this here right now in this moment, and off you go. And you don't have to go through this long period of suffering that you go through now. It's all part of a great learning process, and the right person's on its way. You just have to open up a door and allow that person in. We've got to move on.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay, thanks,
Randy,
Randy.
it's time for us to go. But thank you
Yeah.
so much for your call. That was a lot of good information in there about a couple different situations for her. What do you say we have Natalie on the line from Montreal, Canada? And she's got a question for you, too, as well.
Hi, Natalie.
Hi, Dr. Dyer.
How are you, my dear?
I'm fine, and how are you?
How are things in Montreal?
In Montreal, they're going fine.
Good.
Yeah, beautiful weather.
That's great.
So, the reason I'm calling is I'm having a lot of problems because of stress in my life. My father was sick over the summer. The operation went very well, but ever since then, his mental aspect has really degraded. He's practically driving us up the walls, my mother and myself. And we don't know how to deal with him anymore because he gets upset if it's too cold in the house and he wants to put up the heat. He'll even call the police. He's done all kinds of things that we really do not know what to do anymore.
Is it a dementia? Has he got a form of dementia of some kind? Is he...
We don't know because now they're talking about maybe getting psychiatric evaluation done because last night he called the police. So my mother has a resource person that she can talk to, a social worker. And when she called her today, she goes, I say we're going to get him evaluated and all that because he's really draining her.
Yeah, and when someone gets to that point, how old is he?
He's 76. And the worst part is that he's the one who has basically given up because his operation went very well. He has no reason. The doctors say, no, everything's fine. You shouldn't have all these problems that you say you're having.
It's hard to get inside of his head and understand what's going on from his perspective. I mean, especially after having had surgery. That's a very traumatic thing, and it may be something he may believe that something has been rearranged inside of him that is making him this way, even if there's absolutely no reason for it whatsoever. At any rate, we can't get inside of his head and change it, but we can certainly look at what your options are, and in addition to getting the evaluation and so on, I would really very strongly recommend that you go within yourself and make an absolute conscious decision that you are not going to allow yourself to be emotionally manipulated by the behavior of this man.
Because that is what he is doing. He is really emotionally manipulating us.
Yeah, absolutely. So you just make up your mind that's not going to happen. So when he starts behaving in these irrational ways and starts making these accusations, you let him know, just like you would do with a child that's having a temper tantrum, that this is not behavior that you're going to tolerate. You do it with love, you do it kindness, and you leave the room. You walk out. You say, and each time you condition yourself with this person that every time he behaves in these ways, what he's going to be doing is sending you away, and then you leave, and then you come back. And eventually, he will get it, that this kind of behavior is not something that is going to keep you around and make you unhappy and make you miserable and manipulate you. He'll get that this is behavior that's sending him away. That's the beginning. And you do this all up and down. You just surround him with love, as much possible love as you can. Surround him with forgiveness, and make your own conscious decision about what you're going to be.
We've got William on the line. He also has a question for you, and I believe it may be about communication, just like we're talking about. William, welcome to the program.
Hi, William.
How you doing, Dr. Dyer?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Where are you calling from?
Ogden, Utah.
Oh, great.
That's in the Rocky Mountains.
Yeah, beautiful place. I've been up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question for you, if I could.
Sure.
Well, I've retired as a psychotherapist, and I teach at a local university, and I read your book, The Power of Intention, and that's a remarkable piece of literature.
Thank you very much.
I followed your career also and watched you grow and become the kind of human being you are. And one of the things I'm struggling to do is twofold. Number one, start doing some seminars to help individuals and couples with their relationships. And then secondly, to write a book about a concept that hit me a while back when I was teaching a domestic violence class. My question is, how did you get started? And if you could give me some ideas that might circumvent some unnecessary suffering, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a hard one though, because nobody can, everybody has to sort of follow their own path. I took a very unusual path when I got started. I've always been extremely, excessively, probably obsessively committed to what it is that I'm going to create, and I've never let any obstacles ever come. That's why I always have a difficulty with people calling me up and telling me about all the obstacles that show up in their life, because to me they were always just more indications of what I hadn't been willing to do yet. Because I don't ever believe it's not what you're willing to do, it's what's on your list of what you're unwilling to do. And that has to be a list that has nothing on it. And so for me, it was when I wrote my very first book, which was a counseling textbook, group counseling for personal mastery. I sent the entire manuscript out. I made 100 copies of it on a Xerox machine and sent it out to 100 different publishers, and I got 99 rejections, and I got one little place. It was called Educational Technology Publications in Englewood Cliffs, California, and they said yes, they would like to publish it, and so that was my very first publication. And when I wrote Your Erroneous Sounds, about 6 years later, I went in and talked to different publishers in New York, and I bought up the first 3 printings myself, because they didn't have any plans for it to go beyond just the first printing, and so I bought them up and I stored them in my ex-wife's garage. And circulated them myself and took them in a van and went across the country, and I literally spent 2 years on the road going from city to city. Did you ever see Coal Miner's Daughter?
I did.
Wasn't that a wonderful, I mean, that whole, and that was reminded me so much of what I was doing, going from little radio station to little radio station and delivering the books myself and going to the bookstores and having the time of my life, literally. It was a very joyful experience, and I never asked anybody else to write anything or to go any endorsements or anything like that. I just totally threw myself into it. It's what in Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill talks about having a burning desire, which is different than a regular desire. A burning desire is one that won't go out. It's inside you, and you just absolutely know, so that everything that you attempt to do, if it doesn't seem to be working out the way you want it, you just cross that off the list and say, it's like that old line from Thomas Edison when he was trying 25,000 different ways to invent a light bulb, and he still didn't have it. And here was the most famous inventor in the world, and they asked him the question, how does it feel to have failed 25,000 times? And his response was classic. He said, failed? He said, today I know 25,000 ways not to make a light bulb, not to make a battery. And I just kept learning what not to do. And so I never think of obstacles as things that are bad. I always think of them, okay, one more thing to cross off the list. That one's not going to work, And the other thing is, I started out doing it in very small places, like up in Port Washington, New York, at the Educational Assistance Center. I gave a lecture every Monday night. I was a professor also at St. John's University in New York, and Monday nights were free for me. So I just offered a course, and like 12 people showed up the first time. Then we did it for 4 weeks, and I think they paid $5. After the 4 weeks were up, they told a bunch of people about it. They wanted to continue the course. We had about 30 people show up. And the conclusion of all of that is 3 years later in Port Washington, New York, on Monday night at Schreiber High School, we had 1,200 people, each who were paying $20 for a 4-week seminar to come and listen. And it became like an institution there in the town. And then it went from there to bigger cities, in Manhattan and then all across the world. But it's like you start out and you give a talk. If 3 people show up in a phone booth, give your first seminar there. Don't have anything on your unwilling list. That's my best advice.
Hey, thank you so much.
Thank you, my friend.
Continued success for you.
Thank you, and God bless you. You live up there in a beautiful, beautiful part of the world.
Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, William. We have Matt now on the line. He's calling from Arizona. Matt, welcome to the program.
Yeah, hi.
Hi, Matt.
Hey.
How you doing?
And what is your question for Dr. Dyer today?
I've identified my ego, and I actually have conversations with it frequently.
Good.
But it constantly wants to be in charge, and it sometimes lets me function. I've learned that the best way is to stay on top of my ego is to watch it, but it doesn't like this. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, and in fact, it's frantically always trying to, distract me, from doing this. When you, Ram Dass, and others have advocated actually the death of the ego in order to remove that control.
Right.
But I have this sense that the ego does actually play an important role.
Yeah, I used to think that too. I'm not sure about that. I've sort of changed my mind on that because the thing about the ego, the most important thing to remember about the ego is that it's an illusion. It's really the false self. I mean, that's what all of the great spiritual masters, or that's what Patanjali was teaching like 4,000 years ago. It's the false self. The real self, is this, Lao Tzu said that is real which never changes. So the only part of you that's real is the part that's eternal. And everything else is an illusion, including all of those beliefs that you have about, what your ego is, and all of it's like you're really slaying something that doesn't exist in the first place. If you just recognize that, then you'll be much more at peace with it. But we're going off the air here. I can tell that in about 30 seconds. So.
Sure. Okay. Well,
Sorry,
thank you very
Matt.
much.
We'll have to wrap
Matt.
that up.
Great questions, and maybe I'll meet with you. We can all get together on Maui over here. It'd be great.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Sounds great. God bless you.
Appreciate your call, Matt. That's a great idea for a show. How about a whole show about the ego and tackling that?
Anytime. You
that
tell
little
me,
monster.
Summer. You're in charge. Bring your FX47 with you, and we'll do it.
All right. Well, Dr. Dyer, thank you as always for being with us today. We look forward to having you on air again next Monday, same time, same place.
I'll be here.
Dr. Dyer, hello again.
Good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are.
Good afternoon. How's the start of summertime treating you in Hawaii?
Well, I got to wait till tomorrow.
I know I'm jumping the gun, but by 24 hours.
Let it come. We're still in spring. Yeah. No, all is well. I'm having a glorious morning, as usual.
Yeah. Well, let's go from that glorious morning to talking about loss and transition in our lives. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, there's two areas there. One you mentioned is the whole idea of death, and the other is loss. And I'll talk a little bit about each one of them. I think what happens as you move in your life, as you begin to make a shift into becoming more of a spiritual being, having a human experience rather than the other way around. Most of us think of ourselves as human beings, having an occasional spiritual experience, maybe a Sunday mornings or something. But by and large, if you begin to understand that everything that composes, as Jesus said, everything that composes decomposes. Everything that shows up into the physical world, everything, there are no exceptions, everything that has boundaries, that has form, that has whatever, is, Lao Tzu said, that is real, which never changes. So that anything that is in the world of the changing is something that is transitory. It is something that, in a sense, isn't real because there's no lastingness to it. So the only thing that is real, the only thing that really is something that we can rely upon is that which never changes, and that's the world of spirit. And that's where we all emanated from, and that's where we're all headed to, whether we like it or not. We can look at these bodies of ours, and we can get them nipped and tucked, and we can get things to keep them from drooping, and we can do all of that. But ultimately we know that which shows up in the world of form is headed out, and you can see it. And many times I've held a hair up on the pillow in the morning, and I've had this experience several million times. And I'll look at that hair that's on the pillow, and I'll say, what held it in yesterday? It's like, and we know that there's some invisible dynamic source. So the way that I look at death, because I don't want to it's sort of a depressing subject for most people, and I don't want to make it depressing at all. I received something in the mail, several years ago, and I wrote about it in a book called Your Sacred Self. And it goes like this. It's called There Is No Death. I am standing upon the seashore. A ship at my side spreads her white sails to the morning breeze and starts for the blue ocean. She is an object of beauty and strength, and I stand and watch her until at length she hangs like a speck of white cloud just where the sea and the sky come to mingle with each other. Then someone at my side says, there, she's gone. Gone from my sight, that's all. She is just as large in mast and hull and spar as she was when she left my side, and she is just as able to bear her load of living weight to her destined port. Her diminished size is in me, not in her. And just at the moment when someone at my side says, there, she's gone, there are other eyes watching her coming and other voices ready to take up the glad shout, there she comes. And that is dying. So that it really is truly just a transition, and there truly is no such thing as death. Once you get at that and you get very comfortable with that and very at peace with that, death isn't something any longer that, it's like taking off an old tight shoe or something. It's not anything to fear whatsoever. And it's every single person's destiny out there who's living in the world of form. So the other thing we talked a little bit about is this thing called loss. And many of you who go on my website, which is just WayneDyer.com, it's created by Hay House, and all of the lectures and things that I do, and a lot of the work that I'm about in my life is on that website. And I've put a letter out on there promoting people to help a man named Ram Dass, who wrote Be Here Now and Grist for the Mill and so many great books, who's had a stroke and struggling in his own life and has had some loss. And he received a letter, this man I love so much, received a letter from Steve and Anita, who were the parents of a young woman, a young teenage girl. Her name was Rachel. And in the film Fierce Grace, Anita, who is Rachel's mother, read this letter. Now, it turns out that Rachel was murdered and was raped, and it was a very devastating experience on her. But this letter that Ram Dass wrote to them is one of the most beautiful letters I've ever heard or ever experienced when it talks about loss. And so I'm going to read it here, and then we'll go to a break, and then we'll come back and we'll take some calls, not necessarily about this subject, but about any subject. And here's how the letter goes. Dear Steve and Anita, Rachel finished her work on Earth and left the stage in a manner that leaves those of us behind with a cry of agony in our hearts as the fragile thread of our faith is dealt with so violently. Is anyone strong enough to stay conscious through such teachings as you are receiving? Probably very few. And even they would only have a whisper of equanimity and peace amidst the screaming trumpets of their rage, grief, horror, and desolation. I can't assuage your pain with any words, nor should I, for your pain is Rachel's legacy to you. Not that she or I would inflict such pain by choice, but there it is, and it must burn its purifying way to completion. For something in you dies when you bear the unbearable, and it is only in that dark night of the soul that you are prepared to see as God sees, and to love as God loves. Now is the time to let your grief find expression. No false strength. Now is the time to sit quietly and speak to Rachel and thank her for being with you these few years, and encourage her to go on with whatever her work is, knowing that you will grow in compassion and wisdom from this experience. In my heart, I know that you and she will meet again and again and recognize the many ways in which you have known each other. And when you meet, you will know, in a flash, what now it is not given to you to know, why this had to be the way it was. Our rational minds can never understand what has happened, but our hearts, if we can keep them open to God, will find their own intuitive way. Rachel came through you to do her work on earth, which includes her manner of death. Now her soul is free, and the love that you can share with her is invulnerable to the winds of change, time, and space. In that deep love, include me. In love, Ram Dass. And I think that's as beautiful an expression of how you have to deal with some of the things that show up in our life that we just can't explain whatsoever, the losses, the struggles, the things that come and go. And particularly when people close to us are taken from us, whether it's violently or just accidentally or as a surprise. And that's my take on loss and death here today.
Dr. Dyer, that was a beautiful letter. Did you say that is in a book someplace?
It's in a DVD film called Fierce Grace, which is Ram Dass in his wheelchair, as having had a stroke, talking to people about how to deal with the loss of his own mobility and his own ability to express himself the way he used to be able to, and so on. And the mother read that letter in there. But I'm going to put it in my new book on inspiration.
Dr. Dyer, let's go right to a caller. I think we have Michelle on the line. Michelle?
Yes.
Welcome to the program.
Hi.
What's your question for Dr. Dyer today?
Well, my question is, we recently, me and my two girls, have went through a move from Illinois to Colorado. And I have a young girl who's 14, and she just finished her first year in high school, and she's having a hard time. And I guess we all are, because we miss it so much back there, and everything is so new. I think we feel such a loss. And
go ahead.
It just seemed like such a good idea at the time, but now I'm just wondering if we shouldn't go back.
Well, I can't give you the answer to that, but I can tell you to listen to your heart and to, why did you decide to leave there?
Well, I'm divorced, and their father lives in Colorado, and he's lived here for the past 3 years. So partly so they could be closer to here, partly because this sounds so silly, but I got to thinking that it seems like time's going so fast, and they're growing, and we lived in a very small town back there, and I just didn't think they would stay back there. So I kind of did it more for me. I had a good job offer. My family is out here because I'm from here. And but yet it's so familiar back there. We've lived there for 10 years, and that's really most of their life.
Right. Sometimes the thing that you have to really look at within your heart is whatever it was that motivated you to leave that familiarity and to move into this sort of unknown thing out there. If that is still operating for you in your life, I mean, the closeness to their father, the new environment, the getting away from whatever it was that wasn't so appealing from a hindsight sort of viewpoint that you're taking. My suggestion is that you just that you live in joy wherever you are.
Right.
It's like instead of commiserating about what it used to be when you were back in Illinois and thinking about all of that and just keeping that on your mind, is instead to begin to go into practice with living in the present moment. Being where you are, finding a sense of joy in everything, being in a state of gratitude, knowing that you always have the option. The option is always there. Fortunately, you live in a country where you're free to just move about and go wherever you want to go, and that the option to go back is always there. So, I mean, you can just do that in your mind and say, okay, but since we haven't done that, and certainly if we're not doing it today, and you're not leaving today,
right,
then I'm going to take today and I'm going to look for as many things as I possibly can to find, joy and peace and happiness and so on in the moment that I am. That's how you deal with homesickness, I think, more than anything else. And then ultimately, if you get to a point where you just say it's just too unbearable and I want to be back there, it sounds to me, though, that you would have done that already. If there's got to be something holding you there other than just wanting your girls to be close to their father. There's something going on that you're not saying. It seems to me.
Well, I don't know. I just have a feeling that it's the place to be, but I don't know why. And I think if I feel that way, then why do I miss what I knew?
Well, that's
there. And I think what's making it hard is that she misses it so much.
The children.
Right. And she had just finished her first year of high school, and so she, talks to her friends back there, and she just really misses it.
Supposing you said to her that we're going back, do you think she would be happy then?
Yeah, I think she would go. I don't know if she would be happy because, being back there when we were back there, she wasn't completely happy.
Yeah, so happiness isn't about, they always say there is no way to happiness. Happiness is the way. It's like if you don't have happiness within inside of you and you don't bring it to, you have to be able to bring it to Colorado or bring it to gardening or bring it to the new school that you're in or whatever. And if she doesn't have that within her, then disrupting everything again and going back is just another prescription for, letting forces outside of you determine where your happiness is going to be.
It is. And Dr. Dyer, you have, children, teenage, and
I certainly do.
How do you put that in them, though? Do you know what I mean? Not put that in them, but that age is just so hard to...
Michelle, I don't think like that. I don't think it's that hard at all. And I think at the age, for me, I have 8 children, and I have teenagers now, 15 and 17 and 19 years old. And for some of them, leaving, one school and going to another, then we've had to do that on several occasions. It's very traumatic, and then they get used to it, and then we just move on. And for others of them, they have a tendency to be very dramatic and to try to manipulate you with, this is, you're ruining my life and I'll never speak to you again and everything is just, upside down because of you and the decisions you're making. And I always tell them that, you have, you go to school because of the choices that you make, and you have the right to either be happy or not to be happy at any moment. You have the opportunity to make your life joyful and so on, or not. It's up to you. So don't impose that on me. Don't lay that on me. This is where we live. This is where I make a living, and they've understood that.
Right. Okay.
I don't let those teenage emotional years and all of those changes be the things that control and dominate what I know to be the right thing for them or for my family or whatever.
Right. I know. I think I've just been confused as if it's really the right thing, but But
well,
you're right.
there's no answer to that. There is no answer to that. And the real thing that what this call is really about, because it's interesting, we're talking about loss and so on, is how you deal with the present moments of your life.
Right.
You know, I mean, I had someone on the show a few weeks ago who was in Rwanda when she was a teenager and was a hunted woman people were trying to kill her. And she had to go find peace within herself by hiding in a bathroom for 91 days. And I always tell my children, you've got to, and I try to expose them to the kinds of things that are going on in the world that make their, quote, problems really seem, not nearly as dramatic and it really does work, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, I have them watch, shows on, I often say, just as we sit down to eat, we've just got to remember, as we're sitting down to eat this wonderful meal that we have prepared for us, that there are people, our brothers and sisters, someplace on the planet who are digging for worms and roots to try to stay alive today. So let's keep them in our prayers and in our consciousness and remind ourselves of how fortunate we are and how lucky we are.
Right.
Because, the biggest choice that your children have to make is whether they live in a friendly universe or a hostile universe. And if they believe that they live in a friendly universe, then they're going to be looking for opportunities to extend that friendliness and that goodness and that love outward. If they believe that they live in a hostile universe, they're going to be looking for occasions to be offended. And there's no amount of your moving about and changing things that's going to get them to see that. They have to come to that awareness themselves.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember Marianne Williamson talking about her father taking her to China and to Vietnam when they were young kids, just so that they could see what was going on over there. So that she said when we came back, our whole perspective changed.
Yeah.
It might be really good to take your children over to a place where there are drug addicts and things, or old people in a home, and let them just spend a day there. Anyway, we have to take a break.
Okay.
Thanks,
you.
Michelle.
Thanks
Great
so
call.
much.
God bless you. Yeah.
You too.
Namaste.
Bye.
Thank you, Michelle. I really enjoyed how that call migrated from her move to the difficulty of raising her daughter and how to try and...
Right.
Yeah. If you're raising 3 teenagers at once right now, you have a few things to say
There's
on
a great book about how to raise teenagers. It's called Get Out of My Life, but First Drive Me and Cheryl to the Mall. It really describes exactly what it's like to raise a teenage daughter.
That's a real book?
Yeah, it's a real book. It's a very good one, by the way. Get Out of My Life, but First Drive Me and Cheryl to the Mall.
I like that. We are going to go to Valerie now in New Jersey. Valerie, welcome to the program.
Hi, thank you very much. Hello, Dr. Dyer.
Hi, Valerie. How are you?
Absolute pleasure sending light your way. Thank you very much
for
taking my call. My call is actually a call about relationship. I'm actually in a relationship with a wonderful gentleman that I've known since I met was my soulmate and the person that I'd one day marry. Ironically, or interestingly, I was introduced to him on the same day that my father passed away. And so there's an interesting connection between us, a very deep connection that we both acknowledged. But in the last month or so, we'd hit an impasse, and there was a real disconnect between us and not communicating and really reassessing the relationship. And at one point, we decided to bring closure to it and then not, and we've kind of been in this back and forth. Interestingly, at the time, this season of silence that I called it, is when I got introduced. It was a time when I was praying and meditating and gotten introduced to your book, The Power of Intention, which I read, and then read Ask and It Shall Be Given, and one thing kind of flowed into another, and I'm in such a wonderful, wonderful place spiritually, and I thank you for that. My question is actually regarding meditation, however. It's when you have a sense of knowing, an absolute knowing about a relationship connection with someone, and you are meditating to manifest destiny, can you meditate with a specific name and person in mind, or is it better to leave yourself more open to not put so many limits on how the Creator will send it? That's the first portion of my question, and I think I may have kind of answered it because I have been meditating with him in mind, and sure enough, in a matter of days, we've begun communicating again. But I just wanted to know if I was going in the right direction with regard to that.
Well, I think you can meditate on attracting virtually anything you want into your life and be as specific as you want to be, and you can have it show up. But I think it's much more important in your desires to put your attention on the feeling behind what it is that you are asking for. And and always keep that in mind, no matter what it is. I mean, to ask to win the lottery, for example, or to ask to have, something happen at 4:15 in the afternoon, on your timetable, that the universe doesn't work on your timetable. Your timetable comes from your ego, and the universe's timetable comes from spirit, comes from God. And there's a line in one of Jackson Brown's songs that says, creation reveals its secrets by and by. So that if you live in New Jersey, well, about this time of year you start planting tomato plants, don't you?
Right.
Up there, there's beautiful New Jersey tomatoes that are so wonderful. And then, but you start seeing the shoots come up around about another month or so from now. You'll see them just shooting up from the ground. I mean, you can't get down on your knees and start tugging at them and say, "Look, I want some tomatoes today."
Right.
The tomatoes will show up exactly on schedule when they are supposed to show up. And I think the same thing is true of our relationships and all the people that are in it and so on. The key to manifesting, in my opinion, is not so much in whether you put your attention on a specific thing and a specific person, but in becoming a vibrational match to what it is that you desire. And if you've read Ask and It Is Given, the wonderful book by Jerry and Esther Hicks.
It absolutely is wonderful.
Yeah, it is. I wrote the foreword to it, and I don't write forward, so I mean, it's a book that I really recommend, and you can get that through Hay House. At any rate, one of the things that you learn is that, let's say your desire, I always go back to, like, if you just can put a number on your desire, and the highest number, just say is 100. And so on a scale of 1 to 100, your desire is to be what in this relationship with this person? What would it be?
In a numerical sense, or
what's the highest desire that you have for this relationship with this particular person? What is your highest desire?
My highest desire is actually to have such a spiritual connection and loving relationship that
that's enough. You don't need any more. That's perfect. Okay, so that's what you want. You want a loving, divine, spiritual, God-realized relationship, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that's at the top. That's number 100. Now let's look at what you've been offering up to that, to match up to that. So that's a very spiritual, that's like a God-realized ambition and desire. But most of the things that we offer up to that are, I don't know if it's going to work out. I'm looking at some of the things that I'm seeing that I don't like about this person. He isn't quite measuring up. We don't agree on this. You know what I'm saying? That before you know it, what you offer up to that number 100, that highest number that's possible in terms of your desire, are numbers around 15, 20, 25. And so now you slide them over and you try to match up. So how can you match a desire that is 100 with thoughts and energy and behaviors and feelings and worries and so on that aren't in harmony with that? So that and that's why that's why things don't manifest, because the universe responds to what it is that you were putting out there. It's just called the law of attraction. So what you want to do is offer up to that consciousness that you desire thoughts and particularly feelings and behaviors that match that. So what is a matching thought to that? This person is divine. He's a creation of God. I give, in a book I wrote a few years ago called There's a Spiritual Solution to Every Problem, I just jotted this down while I was listening to you talk. It's Valerie, right?
Yes.
Here's 2 tests for turning a relationship into something that's divine. It was written by Anthony DeMello. Number 1, he says, try these 2 affirmations out. I am not really attached to you at all. I am merely deluding myself into the belief that without you, I will not be happy. That's number 1. And number 2, and this is the hard one, I leave you free to be yourself, to think your thoughts, indulge your tastes, follow your inclinations, behave in ways that you decide are to your liking, and I will still love you unconditionally.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, and it's tough, isn't it?
It is, and it's interesting that you said that, because recently he had communicated with me that he was not sure, where he was with the relationship, and that's exactly what I did give to him. I said, I love you enough to let you go and find your way. And sure enough, he came back, and we're just progressing a day at a time, and that's where I'm taking it. And one thing that I did want to add, I know that you said before that the music is often made in the silence between the notes.
Right.
And I find that
all the music, by the way.
That's right.
Not often. All the music. It's the silence between the notes that makes the music. It's out of the silence that all things are created. That's how God creates, and that's how we create. Yeah.
And I'm finding that in love relationships, it's nice to have the warm fuzzies and the together time, but a lot of times your love is developed in those quiet times, in those seasons of what may appear to be discord, and in seasons where you're stretched. So I'm finding that, and it's an awesome journey, and I am very excited about what the future holds.
Well, I just finished a book that I just the other day. It's a little book that'll be out next year. It's called Being in Balance. And one of the chapters, there's 9 of these chapters, and one of these chapters is called Love is What's Left Over When Falling in Love Fades Away.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, so it's like, like falling in love is like gaga, can't keep your hands off each other, can't get enough sex, can't get enough of holding the person's hand, snuggling up to them, bringing flowers, all those wonderful things. But that fades in everything. You just can't keep bringing flowers. Cost too much, smell too much, whatever it might be. So but love is what's left over. And I saw a little boy give a comment about when he was asked what love was. He was only 4 years old. He says, love is what's in the room when you're opening your Christmas presents. If you stop and look around and see what's in the room.
Oh, how about that?
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, if you stop thinking about yourself and just say this. So there's lovers come and lovers go, but love remains. And that's what you have to be. Be the love, because that's what God is, the love. And he that dwelleth in love dwelleth in me, and I in him. That's what God realization is.
Wonderful.
Great call. Thanks,
very,
Valerie.
very much.
Yeah, thank you. And great. Enjoy New Jersey and watch for those tomatoes. But wait till August till they get here.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, God bless you.
Bye-bye.
All right, let's go to Rod now in New York City. Rod, welcome to the program.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, Dr. Dyer, how are you?
I'm great, thanks. How are you, my friend?
Very good, bless you.
Thank you, likewise.
I had a comment. I actually met you in New York when I had a chance to see you meet Immaculate at the Omega conference, and I came up and gave you some hugs and got a chance to tell you about my experience using your material to get through double neurosurgery on my spinal cord.
I remember now, yes.
Yeah, I gradually lost my ability to walk, and after having been a very vibrant and personal trainer and all-around sporting guy, I ended up with this extensive healing process, which began with intense pain that would basically cause me to pass out, and it went beyond words.
Right.
I was fortunate enough to get a gift from some friends called 101 Ways
to transform your life.
Yes.
Yeah, that CD, yeah.
Yes, indeed. It was a goodie, and that kind of introduced me to you. I had a Louise Hayes version as well, and I'd play you guys back-to-back over and over.
Right.
And I just used it often enough to try and get over what was, for me, a tremendous loss of mobility because I had to go into a wheelchair for a period of time.
But you're not in a wheelchair now, are you?
No, thank heaven. No, but it was hard to see my way out of such an experience between the pain and the despair. Depression took over. It was very frightening. It was a terrorizing time for me. But as I laid in my bed healing, watching the seasons change, I'd have the material on, and I charged on it, and I just wanted to share that with the viewers that you can plug in and take yourself to another level just by riding that wave, you might say,
right,
and allowing yourself to transform. And thank you. I want to thank you again for that 101 Ways. Right now I'm living in the power of intention as I take my train to see my clients nowadays because I'm fortunate enough to have gone through the healing process.
Right. And what work are you doing now, Rod?
Right now I'm able to train clients again, but what I've done is I've kind of begun to take some of the material. I actually use some of your material to inspire my clients now and incorporate health and wellness in terms of a physical aspect with the spiritual. And I believe that's going to be like the new way, well, not the new way, but a way to channel, to allow us to take ourselves to a higher level physically and spiritually in the same life.
Oh, I think so, too. Not only is it going to happen for individuals like that, but I really think that we're on a bigger wave than that with being able to do that all over the world, all over the planet, where we're going to create the kind of planet, the kind of relationships, the kind of peaceful, loving, God-realized place that we all came from. And it's only by going within. It's only through a change in consciousness that we're going to transform the world. That's how you transformed your life. I'd love to take the credit for it, but it was all you and your relationship to God. And as you went there and found that and discovered that, you realized that you don't have to offer up to a desire to be healthy again any energy that says, I can't do it, or it won't happen, or poor me, or I've been a victim, or whatever. And instead, what you offered up to it was a match to what it is that you intended to create. So you did it, Rod. I'm really, really proud of you.
Dr. Wayne Dyer is joining us now from Maui. And how's it going post-Thanksgiving? Feeling good?
Oh, it's going fine. Going fine. I have an announcement to make that I wrote a book several years ago, back in the 90s. It was called A Promise is a Promise. And it was the story of a woman who was taking care of her daughter who was in a coma. It was about the woman, her name was Kay O'Bara, and she was taking care of her daughter. Slipped into a coma on the 3rd of January in 1970 when she was 17 years old. She was a diabetic, and she had taken an oral form of insulin, and she got the flu, and she vomited up all of her insulin, and so she slipped into this coma. And as she was slipping into the coma, she said to her mother, "You won't leave me, will you? You won't leave me." And the last words her mother said to her, she said, "No, I will never leave you. I promise." And a promise is a promise. So I read about her. It was 25 years after that, in 1995, that I read a story about her in the newspaper down in Florida at my home. And I was just so touched by this woman's selfless dedication to her daughter and living up to her promise that she had actually sat next to her and put her into her home and would feed her through a tube and so on, and refused to have life support removed from her because she knew that she would starve to death, and she just couldn't bring herself to do that. And so she stayed in the coma, and the mother just slept in a chair next to her for 25 years. And then I got to know the family. I sent them a copy of one of my books that I had written, a book called Real Magic, and went down to visit them in Miami a lot and spent a lot of time with them, and decided to write this book and to have all of the proceeds, all of the profits, all of the royalties and everything go directly to the family to help them with it. And then Kay died about, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and meanwhile Eduarda was still in the coma, and her sister, Colleen, who had been incarcerated, and she had gotten herself addicted to some kind of drugs. I'm not sure what they were, but she had gotten herself into trouble with the law. And when Kay got very sick, she came out of jail, and she just felt that Eduarda had saved her life, her sister's life. And then after Kay died, Colleen took care of her up until the day before Thanksgiving, and then Colleen called me. And she said I was the first person that she called. And Eduarda passed away on, I think, the 20th of November. It might have been the 21st at 7:15 in the morning, which is the middle of the night here, when she called and told me. So she was in a coma from 1970 until 2012. Wow. So, and she was almost 60 years old. She was 58 or 59 years old, and they had taken care of her since she was a teenager. And there were many amazing stories about this woman. One time my son, Sands, who was about 11 or 12 at the time, was taking a shower, and he came running out of the shower with a towel wrapped around him and said, Mom, Dad, you're not going to believe it. I saw Eduarda. She came into the bathroom, and I saw her in my shower, and there were other people who had reported these kinds of visitations from her and had done healings with her and so on. So I wrote about a lot of those things in the book. It's called A Promise is a Promise. And but anyway, a lot of people have asked me about her and so on, but she left this earthly plane. And Colleen, who has taken care of her now for the last 5 or 6 years, we're talking 24/7 here. This is, someone who has to be cared for continuously. And she just couldn't believe that she wasn't still alive. She just thought that she was just resting. When the nurse, they had a nurse that would come in 3 or 4 times a week. She came in and said, no, she finally passed in the middle of the night. So I think it might be the longest anybody has ever stayed in a coma and stayed alive.
Wow. No, I've never heard of that, of someone lasting that long in that state.
43 years.
Wow.
42 years.
And just the family taking care of her for so long, that's just incredible.
Just an incredible display of unconditional love and a commitment to living up to a promise, because Medicare or Medicaid or whatever it is wouldn't provide for it, wouldn't allow, for some reason the funding wasn't going to be allowed unless she was in a hospital, and they wouldn't put her in a hospital because they just felt that they wouldn't be there in contact with them. So we used to go to her home all the time, and my daughter would sing for them, and we would all just talk. And I always swore that Colleen would, or that Eduarda would know when I was there. I would just sense a smile from her, and an amazing story. It's, so anyway, the book is still out there, and of course all of the proceeds still go to the family, and I'm going to be helping them with the funeral and all of that, because they have absolutely no money. They depended upon contributions. That's the only way they were able to sustain it and keep the food and so on. They had a doctor, his name was Dr. Chaikin, and he never charged for any of the service that he offered. Just a beautiful man who never charged them anything. But we were always doing fundraising for them. At many of my speeches, I would tell her story and just leave a little box on the stage, and people would come and put money in. And we would always make sure that she got it. And anyway, so it was kind of an interesting morning
to get that call, totally unexpected.
Yeah, and they were such a big part of my life. In fact, in my book that I'm writing now, I can see clearly now, I tell the story of what, just to be able to be around people who are so selfless and who give so much. I remember when Kay had her birthday, and I gave her a set of a pearl necklace that cost a few $1,000s, and she just couldn't bring herself to keep them. I mean, she just kept insisting, no, I have to. This is for Eduarda. I'm gonna sell them and all of that. And I said, no, you're not selling these. Okay, whatever it was. Just anyway, they were just a beautiful, beautiful family, the O'Bara family. Many prayers go out there for Eduarda.
What a lesson for us about keeping your promises.
Yeah, it was one of my first books with Hay House.
I'm feverishly searching the Hay House site right now
and
to
it was
see
the
if
first
it's still
book
there.
It definitely is. It's now out in paperback. It was out in hardcover. It was the first book. It was the first time for me that I had, any writing that I'd ever done or any royalties that I'd ever received or any profits from my writing, I always I invested or I made a part of gave to my family and things like this. This was the first time that I took this God-given talent that I've been given, the ability to write, and devoted it to writing for somebody else and having all of the proceeds and everything go to them. And it really was one of those moments of shifting in my life where I wasn't doing something for me, for Wayne Dyer, and what come my way. I remember going away and renting a place to stay. I stayed for about a month, and I interviewed Kay and everybody associated with it and listened to all of the recordings. But it was one of the most pleasurable writing experiences, maybe the most pleasurable writing experience I've ever had, because it was all about giving. I knew that every single thing that I was doing here and devoting this amount of time and so on to was in the category of just offering and serving and doing something not because of what's in it for me, but how I might serve someone else. It's that I've spoken many times about the mantra of the ego is always more, and what's in it for me, what's in it for me. And the mantra of the higher self and the highest self is how may I serve, what may I do, and keep myself out of it. And that was one of the beginnings for me of putting much more of my emphasis in my life on serving rather than on thinking about what I might get for it.
Wow, that's a beautiful
Eduarda
story.
she was a great teacher, and so was Kay. But you have to imagine, Diane, about having a daughter that's in a coma from the time that she's 17 years old and a senior in high school, and staying next to her and sitting up in a chair for 25 years and never getting a night's sleep in a bed because she had to be turned and she had to be fed every 3 hours and given her medicine and so on to keep her alive.
I can't even imagine that. How many times that she'd want to just give up and...
Yeah,
you can't imagine what she felt.
Yeah, there was no giving up in her. She was I had many, many wonderful evenings and many meals and so on, and many wonderful times over in that room with Eduarda lying there and talking to her and singing to her and bringing gifts and so on. So every year in March in her birthday, she would have this party and people would come because I put it on TV. And in fact, I told Oprah about it. So Oprah came down and interviewed her quite a few years ago when she had her own TV show, a daily show, and she put her on there. And so the world was really knowing about her, and people would fly from all over the world to come and see her. And many people felt that they had spiritual experiences, and Kay was absolutely convinced that Eduarda would, when everyone else would go off to sleep, that her spirit would leave and go out and do healing work and things like that. And I know for certain that my son saw her, because he wasn't the kind of kid, and he still isn't. He's 25 years old now, but I think when he was a young boy, who believed in any of this stuff, but boy, he came running out of there and named her and said that she was there.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I did find
Great
the book on the Hay House website. It's available. You can add this one to
You can read the story. It's a wonderful story. And when you're buying it, know that the royalties and the proceeds and all of that all will go to helping get Colleen. She's lost her mother now. Her father passed away about 3 or 4 years into the coma. He just couldn't deal with it. It was such a struggle for him but the mother stayed with it, and she passed away in her sleep a few years ago. And beautiful Colleen, who, when I talked to her the other morning, she was sobbing, and she was saying, "You don't understand, Wayne." She said, "You just don't understand. She saved my life." She said, "I was using drugs, and I was stealing, and I was in trouble, and all of that, and she gave me a reason to live, to serve her, and to take care of her." And she said, and then she was going through all of this inner pain about, I wonder if maybe I didn't do something right. Maybe I didn't put her medicine in right. Maybe I hope I didn't do anything to cause her to, so, yeah, beautiful
well,
story.
that'll bring that story back to light, and people can check it out and read it for themselves. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's it. I wanted to make that announcement.
I'm definitely thankful, for what I have after hearing that.
Yeah, you might want to read that. It's a wonderful story. You can read it in just a few hours. My wife actually wrote a chapter in there as well. It's the first time she'd ever published anything.
Wow. Well, we'll have people check that out. A promise is a promise.
A promise is a promise, right. Okay.
And we still have some time for calls. You want to
grab
let's
some
do that.
People? Mm-hmm. Yes, I'd love to.
Let's see. Where should we go first? Let's go start at line number 1. Let's go to Jackie in Philadelphia. Hi, Jackie. Thanks for holding. You're on with Dr. Wayne Dyer.
Hi, can you hear me?
Sure can.
Hello.
Oh, hi,
Jackie.
Wayne. Can you hear me?
I can.
Oh, my goodness. I'm shaking. Diana.
And we're off to Philadelphia in the morning. Do you know that song?
Oh, my gosh. I'm not nervous. I'm just so excited. I said if I get through, then I have to tell you what I wanted to tell you. But I want to start out by saying I'm a big fan.
Thank you.
For many years, read your books, listen to Hay House every week to your program because it gets me through my week.
Oh, that's nice.
And Diane, thank you for being there to help us get through it.
Oh, my pleasure.
Oh, my gosh. Wayne, I said
I
got through to this call, and it's so ironic that you were telling this wonderful story as you started today, that I want to tell you this only because this is hurting my heart so much. And because of the love and the wisdom that you impart to us about relationships, that I just want to tell you this really quick and ask for your loving wisdom about it. Over the Thanksgiving holiday at my daughter-in-law's house, my daughter and daughter-in-law had a dispute, and they had a shouting fight, and it was very upsetting. My teenage granddaughters were there, and felt very sad. And, of course, I'm praying for peace, to happen. And in the meantime, my daughter, after everything, we left, she was angry with me because she said that I didn't stick up for her. I wasn't in her corner, and I should have said, how dare she say those things to you? And I just kind of don't react that way. I'm more of like a peacemaker.
Right.
I just want to see everyone be at peace. But if my daughter's telling me that this is hurting her so much because I'm not responding that way, I'm wondering what would be the more loving thing to do. And because I'm emotionally a little upset right now, I can't seem to pull on that.
Well, the loving thing to do is exactly what you did do, which is to not take sides and to just be an instrument of peace, and to try to have your daughter understand that, that she doesn't need to have your approval or your support in order for her to feel good because, or to feel better because, but basically what she's saying to you behind all of it is, Mom, if only you were different in that moment, then I wouldn't have to be so unhappy. And she needs to understand that her unhappiness didn't come from the fact that you didn't support her. Her unhappiness comes from the fact that she allowed herself to get into a shouting match with her, what is she, her sister-in-law?
Sister-in-law, yeah.
Yeah. So, if you start going in there and apologizing and all that, but basically what you're doing is teaching her that her emotional upsettedness is the result of what you did or didn't do. And she needs to really know and understand that that's just not the way it is. I always think that, like you take a situation like that and she's in the midst of a shouting match and then she gets all upset and there's that you really are, in the role that you're in there with her, you're really nothing more than just a reflection of what it is that she is, what she is sending out there. In other words, I always tell people, look, go stand in front of a mirror and look in front of the mirror and frown. And then ask yourself, in order to make that frown go away on the person that I'm looking at in the mirror, do I go up to the reflection and try to make the mouth go up in order to make me feel better? Well, the fact is that, you don't go to the mirror and look at the frown in the mirror because there's nothing there. It's just a reflection of who you are. Her anger towards you is just a reflection of something that she is doing to herself. And she really needs to know that, that your love for her has nothing to do with whether you agree or don't agree with the people in a shouting match, and that you had just as much love and care and concern for your son's wife as you do for your own daughter, and that it's not about choosing sides. I mean, that's the way I would look at it from a logical point of view. Now, there's a lot of emotion that gets involved in family, and it's like, you're not supporting me, and you didn't do this, and that's the reason that I'm unhappy. But that's no different than saying the reason that I see a frown in the mirror is because I can't get the reflection to be what I want it to be. When she starts realizing that you don't have, she shouldn't be giving you that kind of power, and you certainly don't want to have that kind of power. Now you've got to always watch out every time that she might be getting upset because of the way that you're reacting. And we need to always be responsible for how we're feeling ourselves and not putting it on anybody else, even if it's your own mother or your own child and so on. That's the way I see it.
Well, Wayne, I have to say thank you so much for this because I'm so emotionally upset because she felt as if she wanted to cut me off in a way, like she was saying, I won't talk to you unless you do this. But I just kept praying. And I said, wow, I can't believe that I got through to Wayne today because at least I can feel, that when you give your advice like this, it's done through peace and love and in a godly way. So I can feel trusting of it. And
yeah. And she wants to make it even, and now she wants. This is really a reflection of what your daughter needs to really look at, and she might want to. You might want to tell her to listen to this show because it'll air several times today, and all week. And now what she wants to do is exacerbate it and make it even worse by then cutting off her communication with her own mother, because you're not living up to what she thinks that you should be. It's that old thing that I've been saying for as long as I can remember being out in the public eye. When people say, if only you were more like me, then I wouldn't have to be unhappy with right now. If only you were seeing the world the way I see it, then I could be, I wouldn't have to be so depressed or so upset. So people go around putting their upsettedness on the reactions, the reflections that other people have in their lives. And once you explain to her that I am just about, I'm just about love, I'm just about peace, and it's not about choosing sides. This isn't a war that we're involved here. This is just an opportunity for all of us to live together in harmony and peace and kindness and joy, rather than in these other ways.
Thank you so much for that, Wayne, because that's how I feel. That's how wars are started. They start in little ways and then they...
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, I think that your daughter needs to, whatever unhappy words were spoken between the two of them, the best thing that your daughter could do would be to send some flowers or something to her sister-in-law and tell her that, I have a loving heart and I slipped back and, I apologize for it. That's the best way to. Yeah, she could end all of that very, very quickly.
Very quickly, that's right. I agree.
She could end it all very quickly by just sending love to everyone. Because whatever the problem is, the solution is always in having a loving heart. And a loving heart is.
Absolutely, Wayne. Thank you. That's why I've resonated with all of your stuff over these years. Thank you so much for being there for me.
Have you seen my film on my greatest teacher? The story of finding my father? And
I haven't, no.
Have you watched The Shift? Have you seen The Shift?
Seen The Shift either. I have your books, but I haven't seen the movies.
You got to we're going to send you both of those movies for Thanksgiving. A happy Thanksgiving. Send them and give one of them to your daughter and tell her to lighten up.
Thank you so much, Wayne. God bless you both.
God bless you too. Namaste.
Boy, the holidays are just so emotionally charged, aren't they? I mean, I can imagine how many confrontations like that must have happened all over the country.
Well, and it's family. It's that whole thing. I often said that I'm going to write a book, about family relationships. And calling it, your friends are God's way of apologizing for your relatives. Because
that can be so true.
When we get into situations with our relatives, whether they're sisters or siblings or parents or whatever, and we have all of these expectations that you're supposed to support me and you're supposed to do this, and if I say that, you're supposed to be there, and so on. And the fact is that we just have to accept each other for. Just because we happen to share the same genetics doesn't mean that we share all of the same views.
Right. Or also, what do you think about this? If you have a difficult family member who's treating you horribly, and I've had people say, well, that's your blood, you just have to deal with it. I don't think that's true. Do you?
No, not at all. In fact, the holidays are a great time for that. It's like I always say, every family has an Aunt Bertha or something. That's just the name that I picked. And when she comes over for Halloween, I was going to say, but for Thanksgiving or whatever, that what you want to do, and when she starts in on the kinds of things that are just upsetting to you, is just see how much love that you can send to this person. Just make up your mind in advance. You're not going to allow this person to get to you. I've been practicing that. I practice it when my kids come all the time. They say things sometimes that I don't like, and they make noises that I don't want, or they put on TV shows that I don't want. And I just say to myself, don't say anything. Don't say anything. Just love them. Just love them. That's all. That's all we got to do. And just let it go.
That's great advice. So let's go to Ray in Cheyenne, Wyoming. He's on line 5 and see what's up with Ray. Ray, thanks for holding. You're on with Dr. Dyer.
Actually, it's Roy, a.k.a. Roy Rogers, your buddy.
Oh, hey, Roy. How's Trigger?
Sorry about that.
It's been a while, the summertime since I last talked to you and everything. And
yeah, nice to hear from you.
I always do, because I wanted to talk to you a little bit about all these I Am discourses you've been pounding us with for over the summer and springtime. And I just wanted to tell you how I think they've been kind of working for me, too, and that at first I kind of thought, I don't want to do it and everything, but, I started doing it. And it's just like today, for instance, we had a dramatic temperature change in Wyoming today where it's barely over 30 degrees, and yesterday it was almost 60, and when I woke up, I didn't feel like getting out of bed. I'm really tired, and I just keep telling myself, I am energy, I am strength, and when I'm doing my workouts now, I start doing my workouts even if I'm in pain or if I don't feel like finishing them. I just keep saying that I'm endurance. I am endurance, and I somehow manage to get through them. But I think the most incredible thing that's happened to me is when I was reading that and some of your other books over this summer about the I Am discourses is about prosperity. And what I often do when I run, I don't always work out at the gym. I often run to the gym and finish it up there and then run home, especially when it's warmer. And I tell myself I'm prosperity and I am all of that. Well, what I've noticed is that every now and then in the past I've always found, maybe a dollar bill here every now and then or a 5 somewhere on the street and all that. But there was a period of time in the late summer and early fall where it just seemed like every time I turned around, I was finding $10 bills and $20 bills in the vacant lots that I was running through or off the sidewalk. I mean, I found $30, just 3 $10 bills within a minute run of each other over this summer, over the one day during the summertime. Just $10 bills just sticking right off the field from the sidewalk.
Really? Those were mine.
Again,
those were mine, Roy. I dropped those. I was out there running. It was in Wyoming, was it?
Yeah.
Did they have Hamilton on the picture of Hamilton on the front? Alexander?
I think they had your picture on it. They might have.
Oh, okay. Well, then they weren't the one.
No, But what I wanted to say more, and it leads a little bit even more. So you got that out of the way. Just really quick, I just want to tell you that ever since I've been doing that, what I've been noticing is ever since I've been doing the I Ams, for some reason I even feel a little bit more sensitive to trying to reach out a little bit more to other people too. And I was watching this TV show. I think it was on MSNBC Lockup. I watch shows about and all that. You've heard of it. And normally I don't think much of it. I just watch the show But there was this one guy that was on there a few weeks ago and for some reason, just from what he was talking about his life and he's serving a life sentence and when he's been given chances, he struck out and he keeps going back. And he kind of reminded me a little bit of my father. And then he said some stuff about one of my favorite things, which is coffee. And I thought to myself, just the way he worded it, and I said, I'm going to send something to him. Just for whatever reason, I just thought, I'm going to reach out to this guy. I've never done that before. Well, I did, and I even put a little bit of money into his fund to help him maybe buy a little more coffee and all that. And you want to know what he did? He sent me a letter back, and he told me that really quick that he said that, you know what, this is a very cold and lonely place. That just you reaching out to me, it was like a ray of sunshine. Wow. And so I started to try to write to him just because, like I said, and just to show that somebody cares, because that's another thing you've told us to do, is there a lot of people out there are way more forgotten than we think we are. We think we may have it bad. And yet
so true,
there are people who are just totally forgotten, and nobody cares. And even if they've made mistakes more serious than ours and all that, or if they're on the streets for whatever reason because of drugs or whatever, it's like we often just forget about them. And so I guess
this is what's happened with you, Roy. What's happened is that you're using the term "I am" a lot. And this is how it started. It's very fascinating what you're saying to me. That's why I'm just listening and letting you talk. So you've been using the words "I am." I am content. I am energized. I am prosperous. And every time you use the term "I am," you're really saying the name of God. I mean, this is right out of the Torah, right out of the book of Exodus. You can look up in the book of Exodus 3, I think it's 18, where God speaks to Moses and says, "My name is I am that I am, and that shall be my name for all future generations." I mean, that means that's this generation as well. So the name of God is the name of I am. And when he said, "I am that I am," he's really saying the word "that" means everything. It's that everything that you look at a surfboard, I am that. You look at a tree, I am that. You look at each other. You look at the people who are supposed to be your enemy. You look at the ones that you're speaking about who are more forgotten. And you remind yourself of what all of the saints say. It's what Mother Teresa said. Every day, she said, I see Jesus Christ in all of his distressing disguises. I see God in everything and everyone. And when you start practicing and then just simply saying those words, I am content, I am peaceful, I am happy, I am God, I am love, and you continuously say that, you begin to act like God because you take on the name of God. And how does God act? The way that you just described, Roy, is the way God acts. God just offers us, whatever it is, asks nothing in return, doesn't demand anything, doesn't want us to necessarily love him or celebrate him or anything like that. Just, this is, and I even use him. I mean, it's like him, her, it, whatever it is. It's a divine intelligence from which all things are intended, to which all things return. And when you start saying that name and recognizing that every time you say the name I am, you're using the name of God. You don't want to use it in vain. I mean, that's one of the things in the book of Joel. It says, let the weak man say, I am strong. And as you begin to say these things, not that I will be and I hope to be, but that I am these things, you begin to take on what's called God realization, a higher level of consciousness. And then you are, that motivation that you had when you watched the Lockup show on MSNBC to go to that guy, that really was a reflection of the fact that you have been bringing yourself more in alignment with divine intelligence, with God, with divine love. And that's how it gets manifest. And when more of us do this, that collectively, when enough of us begin to do this and behave in these ways on a regular basis without asking anything back in return. I mean, you didn't send that money to the guy hoping that he would pay you back. You sent it because it was something in your heart and it's in alignment with what I was just talking to with the lady in Philadelphia as well, that you just align yourself with love. And love everything and everyone, because I am that, I am that. And the I am discourses were very instrumental in teaching me to be in a state of gratitude for that I am presence, that is who you are, to give thanks for it, that there is something internal to you, independent of this body that you're in, this invisibleness within you, which is God, and to give thanks for that. And to be in a state of constantly giving. And I'll bet you're going to also find something, Roy, that the more of this that you do, the more that you'll see showing up in your life. That's what these $10 bills that you're finding and things like that the more of that begins to show up as well.
I do what you do, too, even when you talked about on your PBS show. Even when I used to find pennies on the street, I say, thank you, universe, even if it's just a penny. That's what you do, too, right?
I do. I've always done that. Every time I find a coin or I say, thank you, God, for the symbol of abundance that continues to show up in my life. That's the statement that I make. And by the way, I was swimming not too long ago. I mean, I swim every single day in the ocean, and I put the goggles on, and, I'm looking down at the fish and all of that. And as I was swimming, a $10 bill was down about, maybe 20 feet down, that was on the bottom of the ocean. And I dove down, and I couldn't quite get down that far without my ears starting to back up, and I went back all the way up to the top. And I said to myself, I know that I can go down 20 feet and get that $10 bill. And sure enough, I took a big, lung full and went straight down and just kept pushing, got myself the $10 bill. Almost passed out doing it. But I said, there was a $10 bill just at the bottom of the ocean saying, here, this is for you. And that kind of thing happens all the time on a regular basis. And it's not always about money. It's about friendship. It's about the right thing showing up. It's about synchronicity. It's about whatever you place your attention on, whatever your mind is thinking about, that you align with that, and then it hardens into an object. That's what Wishes Fulfilled is really all about. It's like hardening thoughts into physical objects that we're all capable of doing, because everything that is physical originates in the world of spirit. Everything. So keep your mind on that.
I told the inmate that in my second letter to him that I sent out last week, that I was inspired by many of your teachings, and that I said to him that, if your library in your prison has any books by Wayne Dyer, and I'm sure that you do. You probably are books of yours in prisons that, get some of those and everything like that.
Plus,
I think he can use them.
My PBS show airs in prisons as well. Roy, before you leave your address, and I'll have Diane give it to me. And I'm going to send this guy something as well. I'm going to send him a check, whatever his name is. And what prison is he in?
Well, he's in Florida. He's in should I tell you the specific name? But he's incarcerated in the state of Florida. In the
state of Florida. No, don't say it over the air, because who knows. But just put your name and address, and I'll send it through you, okay?
Yeah, and then I promise you I'll send it to him. And
I know that he will. Yeah.
And because you are a good man, and it like I said, it's incredible how it's like what you say. Sometimes it's hard to believe, because it's like when I feel tired, I don't feel like saying I am energy, or when I'm feeling kind of low with the low pressure beating the weather in Wyoming, it's like I don't feel like saying I am, and sometimes it seems dumb, but I guess it's better than being defeated, and you never know it. You'd be surprised. It does help me. It has helped me get through things.
Well, I do yoga class like 3 or 4 times a week, intensive yoga, Bikram yoga in a hot studio. And there are times when I just don't know whether my body can do that for 90 solid minutes at the age of 72. And I just always say, I am energized, I am well, I'm very often the oldest person in the room. But I never, ever, ever have to sit down or give up on a posture. I do both sets of every single asana through all, by simply just saying, I am well, I am content, I am strong. Let the weak man say, I am strong. And I just say that to myself. And I say it also I have my children always say it. When they wake up and say, I'm tired, I say, you'll never hear those words come out of me. I don't say I am tired. I say I am energy. And I don't ever say, I am unhappy. I just say, I am content. I am peaceful.
It's like that little book you wrote, those little books that had one-page sayings on them, like for 200 pages. There was one that stood out this summer before I let you talk to the other callers and everything, but it was something to the effect, the way you feel prosperous is think of all the things you are thankful for, and you can never feel unprosperous, something to that effect. Do you remember that?
Absolutely,
thing?
absolutely.
Yeah. Think of everything you've got. You'll never feel a lack of prosperity.
Right. Well, don't think about what you don't have unless you want more of what you don't have to keep showing up. And don't think about what's missing and talk about what's missing, because when you do, you align with the consciousness of missing. And so the universe will send you more evidence that stuff is missing from your life. When you say, I am prosperous, you align with the universe, the universal divine mind, which controls everything, that says, so prosperity is how you feel inside. Here's another example of it, and you'll start seeing it showing up. $10 bills all over the place.
Well, I'll get back with you early next year sometime, and I'll let you know how he's doing.
Okay, leave your address, leave his name. I'm going to send him a check, okay?
Yeah, okay.
For Christmas.
Thank you,
okay.
I appreciate it. I'll
Thanks, Roy. Say hello to Trigger, okay, for me?
Yeah, hi, yeah, he loves you. He also loves you.
Do you know that Roy Rogers used to sing a song that I think is the theme song of the spirit inside of us? And the song goes like this: oh, give me land, lots of land, and the starry skies above. What is it?
I don't know. I've heard
Don't
it, but
fence
I'm not
me
very
in.
good at
There you go, Diane. Don't fence me in. Don't fence me in. Let me ride through the wide open spaces that I love. Diane.
Don't fence me in.
There you go. We are terrible.
I know. I'm an awful singer.
But that's the theme. That's the theme. Don't fence me in. Let me expand. Let me grow. Let me be love. Love is always expanding. Okay, let's take another call. Thanks, Roy. Leave your address.
That's great. What a great story. Let's
he's a
go
great guy.
to Monica,
Out in Wyoming.
and she's on line 6 in Pennsylvania, Wimber, Pennsylvania. And Monica, thanks for holding. You're on with Dr. Dyer.
Hello.
Hi, Monica. How are you, dear?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm great. Is this Monica Lewinsky? Is this?
No,
Oh.
I've gotten that for years.
I'm sure you have.
She disgraced my name.
Not really.
No,
Not really.
I know.
She just was doing what she knew how to do. She was just, misled.
Oh, you are something, Wayne.
Oh, thank you. So are you. So are you, Monica.
Thank you. Okay, I just have a question. I've heard you talk that you have, or you did have a child that suffered with addictions.
Yes,
And
still struggling.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, see, I have one too. My 30-year-old son, Michael, and he's addicted to the painkillers and the alcohol, and it just kills me. It kills me. And I'm so sensitive whenever he gets to being negative that I can't even be around him, and I just don't know what to do. I pray all the time. I ask Archangel Michael to, I've heard Doreen Virtue talk about asking Michael to vacuum out, anything negative out of him, and I just wondered if there's any advice you could give me on how to deal with this. I feel if you who are like you're like the father of self-improvement, you're just like so amazing that if you, as good as you are, you have one that struggles and you can't
Monica, not only do I have one that struggles, I have struggled with this in my life as well.
Yeah.
I haven't had a drink in 25 years of alcohol, but I drank plenty of it before that.
But you want to see, my son will say, well, you've never been addicted. My thing is I would never allow myself to get addicted because I love, it's that self-respect.
Yeah, but there's a chemical component to this whole thing as well, especially if you take enough of this stuff, especially with the prescription things, and there's so much of it out there. I mean, it's really an outrage. I mean, how many young people are really addicted to things that they can just get they can just get a prescription for, or get it without a prescription. They know how to do it. Esther Hicks speaks brilliantly about addiction and said, that love is the only answer. It's always the only answer. It doesn't mean that you have to be victimized. It doesn't mean, but you just have to fill your heart with love for this young man, as I do for my daughter, who's 29 years old. But I also have let her know that it's like, I'm not going to be your victim. These are choices that you are making. And if you're going to make this choice, I'm still going to love you. I'm going to love you through, but I'm not going to be around to be the recipient of the abuse that comes with it. And that's where you have to really draw the line there and let them know. I think that the most significant thing I ever heard about addiction, and it helped me in overcoming, and I have positive and I have negative addictions that I've dealt with in my life through, the alcohol and drugs and eating and things like that, and sugar. And also I've had positive addictions, where I ran every day for almost 30 years without missing a day, 29 years. 8 miles. And I still, even today, I swim. My daughter said to me last night, my oldest daughter is here with me, was here for Thanksgiving, and it was cold, and it was about 6 o'clock, and it was getting dark, and I hadn't swam yet. Something had happened, and I went out. She said, well, you don't have to swim today. She said, it's cold and it's windy out there. I said, no, I swim every day. That's sort of like a positive addiction, like brushing your teeth and so on. The most important thing I ever heard about addictions that helped me the most and helped my daughter a lot along the way for her was from Patty Davis, who was President Reagan's daughter, President and Nancy Reagan's daughter. And she was a cocaine addict and was very heavily into it and loved it and wrote an essay about it in Newsweek magazine called My Turn. You can look it up. You can Google that and find that. It's a brilliant piece. And she said that she was the daughter of the President of the United States, and she said, I just knew that I was causing him such headaches, and I didn't want to disappoint him. And I didn't want to disappoint my mother, who was always just, Nancy Reagan, who was always just so upset with the fact that I would actually do these drugs. She just said, just say no. That was Nancy Reagan's famous line. And she said, and I didn't want to disappoint my boyfriend, and I found that I was disappointing him, and I didn't want to disappoint myself. And she said, and on all of these times, I just kept always ending up still disappointing everybody. She said, then it finally hit me that I decided that I no longer wanted to disappoint God. And she said, when I made that connection and realized that who I am at the highest place within myself is God, the name I am God. And that's what looks out from behind my eyeballs, and I came from that, and I returned to that, and all the rest of this is physical, is really nothing. It's all illusion because it's constantly changing, but there is a component of me that is eternal and that is invisible. And I decided I no longer wanted to disappoint God. I came from perfection. I came from well-being. When you come from well-being, you don't come with addiction. And I will return to well-being. And I decided I just wanted to no longer disappoint that highest aspect of myself. And she said it didn't change my desire to do the cocaine. She said I still loved doing it. It still made me feel great. It was a wonderful feeling to do it. She said, but there was this part of me that just said, I'm disappointing my well-beingness, which is my godliness. And that's what ended it. And that's what you need to help your son to find the God within himself. Whatever he wants to call it. It doesn't have to be, it's not a religious thing at all. That highest place within himself, and just say, that's the part of me that really wants to be sober and wants to serve and wants to help the world and wants to help other people. And you can't do that because addiction is really, the bottom line behind addiction is the word that's constantly saying, I can't get enough of what I don't want. I can't get enough of what I don't want. I don't want to be addicted. I don't want to be out of control. I don't want to be all of those things, and yet I can't get enough of it. It's chasing after what you don't want. And then when you start really just chasing after what you are, which is well-being, it becomes something you can just walk away from. And he'll be able to walk away from that in a meditative state. Let's send him a copy of Wishes Fulfilled. Leave your address and get his name, and we'll send it off to him as a gift, as a Christmas gift. Okay?
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, my dear. God bless you. Yeah. Namaste. Thanks for your call. I know we just have a few seconds left, but the addiction issue is a huge one in our culture. It's huge. Obesity is huge in our culture. Addiction to prescription drugs, bigger and bigger and bigger all the time. And finding God within yourself and not wanting to disappoint that's the way to end it.
Some great callers today, Dr. Dyer.
Mm-hmm.
Some great advice you're giving today.
Yeah.
And everyone, thanks for joining us.
Dr. Dyer, how are you today?
I'm great, thanks. How are you?
Doing wonderfully over here in California. And, of course, for those listeners who are new, you're coming to us from Hawaii right now.
I am. I just got back from California. Went out last week and did the Ellen DeGeneres show. It aired on Friday. with Janet Jackson, who I could hardly hear with that tiny little voice of hers.
Oh, you're kidding.
But it was great. We had a wonderful time, and we did a whole thing on ego, and I'll be coming back again next month, it looks like.
Great. So you're starting to appear pretty regularly.
Yeah, well, she's just a wonderful soul, and apparently she said on there that she's been listening to my CDs and so on in the car, and she went through a rough patch there a while back, and they really got her through it. So it's really nice. It's nice to know that you're reaching everybody out there.
It is. It must be a great feeling to think, Ellen DeGeneres is listening to my CDs in her car as she's zipping around LA.
How about that?
Well, that's great.
Anyway, so it was great. We had a really, really, really nice time, and
let's see what kind of calls we have out swirling out in the world today. It's interesting how every hour we spend always seems to come up with its own theme. So who knows where we'll go today? I think we should start with Peter, though. He's calling from Saskatchewan. Peter, welcome to the program. You're talking with Dr. Wayne Dyer.
Hello, Wayne.
Hi, Peter. How are you?
Real good, real good. I've just been working on your book. I believe you believe it when you see it.
You'll see it when you believe it. Yes, right. Mm-hmm.
I was just reading that, and I decided to call you, and I got through. Boy.
Oh, well, good for you. Well, you got in early. That's the way to do it.
Yeah.
What's on your mind, my friend?
Well, I've been reading your books, and I've been listening to your podcast. Like I just finished your entire library about two hours ago.
Boy, you've been doing a lot of listening then.
Yeah, it's about 2 weeks I took.
And
it's been real good. I've been living what you suggest, and things have been working for me really positively, really, really positively. The surprising thing is, I thought of a vehicle, changing vehicles, get a new vehicle. I had a vehicle given to me free of charge. Also, it's given a substantial amount of money to, which I have in my possession. And boy, that's. I also found a funny thing that I was listening to a program of yours, and then I kept thinking, "Thank you for the checks. Thank you for the checks."
Oh, good. Well, when you get those checks, you're supposed to send half of them this way. That's that's the way the whole process works.
But there was a catch to it. It was checks from my credit card company.
Oh, it's probably in Canadian. It's probably in Canadian money anyway. So I can't spend it.
They weren't worth anything. They were just for me to make out if I needed money.
Peter, this is Summer. I don't mean to break in, but you might want to get to your question because we're getting some interference on your phone line. I don't know that we're going to be able to keep you too long.
Okay. The question is, how do I change my frame of thinking to be a little less in debt? I don't want to focus on that as being problematic.
Okay, let me do that. Why don't you hang up and I'll answer it. I'll take that off the air because your phone we are getting interference on it.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Peter. God bless you, my friend. Debt is a very interesting concept, and it's one we could do an entire show on for sure. And I've always said this. I've said this to my children particularly that debt is a way of turning the controls of your life over to something or someone outside of yourself, which is something you want to really eschew or avoid if you possibly can in your life. I know a lot of people think that they don't know how to do it any other way. From my own personal perspective, debt is something that I grew up, I guess, believing or getting imprinted in such a way that it was something I didn't want to do. I've never made a car payment, for example, in my life. I grew up with a belief system somehow that I inculcated into my whole lifestyle, which was if you can't afford it, don't buy it, and don't look at what other people have and determine your level of happiness on the basis of whether somebody's driving a nicer car or has a nicer piece of jewelry or has a nicer home or whatever it was. I learned, and I wrote a lot about this in Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life, that contentment is one of the most important processes that we can learn. To be content means to be satisfied. To be content means to be in a state of gratitude, in a state of awe, in a state of bewilderment and acceptance and allowing and love about everything that comes your way, whatever it might be, from the tiniest little thing of being able to just observe a spider web or a beetle walking across the floor or a butterfly flitting about in the air and being in that moment and finding the joy in it. The minute that you put debt into that or put an absence of gratitude into it, you begin to take the energy of contentment and put it into something called fear or worry or anxiety or depression or any of those kinds of reactions, which is what happens when we turn the controls of our life over to someone else. So while debt seems to become, I just heard an amazing figure in the New York Times the other day that we now have $1 trillion in credit card debt, which means that people have bought things to the tune of $1 trillion, which is the gross national product of the entire country, to buy things that they can't afford, that they don't have the money for. I use a credit card for one thing and one thing only, and that is just as a convenience, and they send me a summary at the end of the year, and it helps me with my taxes, and I give it to my accountant, and that's the end of it. But I have an absolute rule that I would never, ever send money to a credit card company for letting me use their money to buy something that I don't have. It's just not something that I do. I don't even have house payments and things like that, but I live always within my means, and I think the best advice that I can give you is to take a look at all of the things that you think you absolutely have, and to remember that to believe that you need what you don't have is the ultimate definition of insanity. You do not need what you don't have, and you need to learn to be able to be content by giving away a whole lot more, and no longer telling yourself that if I don't have these things, my life is incomplete. Go through the things that you tell yourself you absolutely must have and put on credit, and begin to, as much as you can, file that down into such a way that not just so much that it gives you financial freedom, but because it gives you a sense of personal, spiritual freedom as well, of not living beyond what it is that that you are capable of living in within yourself, and to know that you do not need one more thing in order for you to be happy. You do not need to take on one more obligation, financial obligation, in order for you to be living a life of contentment. And I'd recommend you read very slowly and very carefully the chapters in the Tao Te Ching that I wrote about in Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life. Okay?
That's interesting because, you think about our culture, which is extremely consumer-driven. I mean, we are told we need to spend, we must spend. Spending is good for us. We hear that day in and day out. It's you've got to really,
but try to imagine. I mean, and it's our governments that are telling that. Our governments, for example, who are so far in debt. I mean, especially our federal government has so much debt attached to it that what we have done is this: we have this sort of immoral setup that we have done for the next generation and the generation after that of children. As we're saying, we are going to spend and get all of these things that we want. And while we can't pay for it, we'll just figure out that the children who are not yet born are going to do that. And I think that's an immoral crisis. So that's a spiritual crisis that we lay on our young people. Mm-hmm. The Native Americans used to say, when we walk across the ground, when we place our feet on the ground, we place our feet very carefully because we know the faces of our future generations are looking up at us from beneath the ground. And we never forget them. But we do forget them, or we ignore them, or we put an awful lot of misery index on these young people that don't deserve, such a fate. And I think that if my household was run on the same principles that the federal government was running their principle, then I would be broke and probably be in prison as well for spending money that I don't have. I think it's something we have to look at individually in our own lives. To me, it's a question of being in charge of your life. And if you're not in charge of your own life, whatever it is that is in charge is the thing that is going to be your, drive up your misery index instead of your happiness index.
All right. Well, Dr. Dyer, we have time for one more caller before we go to our break. So let's bring on Ellie. She's calling from Toronto, Ontario. Ellie, welcome to our program today.
Hi, how are you?
Great.
Hi, Ellie.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm coming to your city. We should give it a plug right now. There's an I Can Do It coming up in
I know.
I'm
coming to see you.
Oh, good.
That's right.
It's at the end of March. At the end of this month.
That's right.
I'm speaking on the 28th. I know
That's
that.
Right.
And it's going to be. a lot of people there. So I look forward to seeing you.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Me too.
Okay, 2 questions.
Now that your Canadian dollar's worth more than the American dollar.
I know.
I used to have so many jokes about that. Now I'm not allowed to use any of them.
Isn't that funny?
Right.
I think you're amazing. I discovered you by accident, and I just think your works are just amazing. I just have a couple of questions.
Thank you.
Number one, you say that we're all born, we're predestined. Like we're born, our death is in there, our color of our eyes, and so on. So, given that, if everything is in there, then is there any point in trying to manifest anything if everything is going to happen anyways?
Well, that is such a good question. That's such a good question. It's the kind of question that I think about all the time, and the answer to that is yes and no. So it's Carl Jung had that same observation when they asked him about do we really have a choice? Are we really making any choices in our life if there's a destiny that's preordained in our world? And the answer to that, he said, was that at the same moment that you are the protagonist in your own life making choices, at that very same moment, he said, you are also the spear carrier or the extra in a much larger drama. And then he concluded it with this line. He said, you are all doomed to make choices. So in this, so it's really, and when you really begin to read and understand enlightenment and the highest spiritual principles that are out there, you can walk through your days and know that everything out there is already taking place, and that within that larger context of all things taking place, you also have within you the free will to be able to allow it to come and go into your life as you choose. So yes, you are a part. I mean, everything that you need for this physical journey is obviously already handled for you. You don't get to sit there and decide whether you're going to be 6'1" or 5'3", or whether your hair is going to be blue or green, and so on. I mean, your eyes, blue or green. But also within that larger context, there is a part of us that is everything is already happening, and there's also a part of us that is making choices, and be at peace with either one of those opposite points of view. And ultimately, you'll come to a place of oneness, but it's not going to happen while you're in your body. It's going to happen when you leave it.
Dr. Dyer, so sorry. We're going to be coming right back after this. Well, Dr. Dyer, we have Milena on waiting to speak with us. And, of course, you remember we spoke with her last week.
Milena, oh, yes. Oh, that's great, from Sherman Oaks.
I think she just wants to give us a very brief update on
last week's show,
Sandeep, who, as our listeners recall, she was in the relationship with her husband who was abusing her, physically hurting her. And I must say, we had a lot of people email us offering to, send her to resources, to talk with her, wanting to say they had been in very similar situations. So
That's so wonderful. I love the idea that this radio show is becoming a place where people can work together and help each other out all over the world, because that's, after all, who Louise Hay is and what she founded this company on. And it's something that it's the only reason I do this radio show. I don't get paid anything for doing this radio show. It is just something that I do to get out there and really make a difference in the lives of people. And as I often tell my audiences, if any one of you out there listening were to take the microphone and talk for an hour, and I were to sit down, I would have just as much to learn from you as you would have to learn from me. It just happens that I've got the mic for a while.
Yeah.
Okay, Milena, how are you, dear?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Good. I just wanted to share that I have been in contact with Sandeep, and we had a very long, good conversation. And basically, we shared what was going on in our lives, and I basically just let her know what had worked for me. And, she asked for suggestions. She asked me, do you think I could possibly get a job, And so we just talked about starting from step one, which is, before you do anything, you have to change the way you're thinking. You have to change from, I'm stuck, I can't do it, how could I get a job, to, I know there's a perfect job out there for me. I know there's a way I can make this work on my own. So,
and not only that, Milena, but that not only is there a perfect job out there, but then you have to you have to make it a verb instead of just a noun, which is an action word, which is, and that job is on its way. That job is going to be delivered to me, or I am going to run into it, or the right person is out there who is going to, align with me, and so on, so that you begin to see action. Right. Because I think one of the big mistakes that people make is they think that they're disconnected from everything in their world because they're so ego-driven. They're so believe that where I am and what my pain is and what my particular circumstances are is all that there is in life. And they don't stop to realize that we are connected to every other single being who's on this planet, whoever was on this planet, whoever will be on this planet. We are connected by an invisible energy sources. If there's no place that God is not, that means that God is everywhere. And if God is everywhere, that means God is in the place and the very thing that I need to have attracted to my life, so that it's a real realignment in our consciousness that people need to have. And that's a really, really big shift for people. Yeah.
It is. One thing real quick, Summer, I was listening to your show the day after this all happened, and I just started wondering, I mean, I feel that what you do with flow dreaming is so powerful and amazing, and I started thinking about, the possibility. I just thought I'd throw this out there of you maybe doing a flow dream show on helping people who are in that situation of, being in an abusive relationship, possibly find the strength to move through that. Or, I mean, you would know the best way to do that. But I just wanted to put that out there because I believe you could probably help a lot of people get the push, to really make a change in their life in that way. So, and
Thanks,
thank you
Milena.
both. You're welcome. Thank you both for your wonderful shows.
That's a good idea.
Thank you, Milena. God bless you, beautiful. I hope to see you soon.
Yes. Okay. Bye.
Thank you. Namaste.
Thanks, Milena. That's a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
All right, when we have Dominic.
And abusive doesn't necessarily mean that somebody is hitting you all the time.
No.
I mean, very often that is, that's one of the more serious kinds of abusive relationships. But abuse can take many, 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 many forms. It can take the form of someone refusing to talk to you, or it can take the form of someone talking to you all the time in disrespectful ways. It can take many, many forms other than just the physical.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to say it, but the physical, abuse can fade in a week or 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But the abuse that comes psychologically is what often stays with people their whole lives. It changes their behaviors. It changes their level of fear. And people tend to discount that kind of abuse more because there's no physical evidence of it. But it's so devastating. So, yeah. Agreed.
Okay.
Let's go back to Dominic like I was about to. He's calling from Glasgow, Scotland. Dominic, welcome.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, how are you? Yes, we can hear you
fine.
Hi,
Dr. Dyer. Firstly, I hope you can understand my very strong Scottish accent.
You sound like you. I thought you were from Brooklyn. I can't believe you're
Brooklyn.
From
Yeah.
Right.
It's a pleasure to speak to you. Just with reference to you've been my Jimmy Cricket, if you remember that story you told. Your erroneous zones. And just quickly before I go to my question, have you ever lectured in Scotland, Dr. Dyer?
I have lectured in Glasgow many years ago.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And have you any plans to come back to Scotland at any time?
If they invite me back, if they can talk so I can understand them, I'll come back.
Yep.
No,
okay, well, we'd love to see you over here. I'd love to see you over here, and it's always been a sort of passion and a passing sort of dream that maybe one day we'd get you over here, not just to do some talks, but to help this country, because I think this country needs guys like you more than anything. But that's just an aside. Just going on to my question, I recently had went through a really bad period at work. So much so with my boss, with the management, so much so that it really it was stressful. I got very run down. I eventually had to go off sick. I went into a deep depression, almost a suicide depression that lasted throughout Christmas and the New Year. Thankfully, I'm coming through that. And part of that is that I've rediscovered my interest in the spiritual side of things, and particularly yourself and other people like you. I know that to get through this, I know how important forgiveness is. And I can feel that forgiveness is the right thing to do. That I need to forgive these people to move forward. But how do I balance, forgiving these people, but at the same time, I think they should be called to account for what I think was bad and bullying management behaviour and something that affected me. I take responsibility for the fact that it affected me, and I'd like to forgive them. I'd like to move forward, but at the same token, I'd like them to be held accountable for their actions and to know that it didn't do me any good, it doesn't do them any good, and it won't do anyone that works for them again any good. Have you anything you can tell me about that, how you handle that situation?
Sure. The problem with getting people to be accountable generally is that the motivation behind that is revenge rather than justice and getting even. And if you were to do a muscle test, if you were to do a kinesiology little test on yourself by just getting someone to, if you just were to stick your arm out, and make a fist and as tight as you possibly can and have someone push down on it and have that someone who knows what they're doing do this in the moment while you're thinking, first of all, about forgiving these people and notice how much stronger you are when you forgive them. And then just go to the revenge, get to the getting even part, which is what you're discussing, and notice the change, and you'll see that you'll get very, very weak. So that when we seek out revenge, there's an old Chinese saying that says that if you're going to pursue revenge, you'd better dig 2 graves.
Yep.
And the reason for that, of course, is that you're going to kill yourself in the process. Mm-hmm. If you can just let it go, if you can turn the holding them accountable thing that you are looking for over to someone else and detach yourself completely from the outcome of that, then that's fine. Let the lawyers, let the judges, let whoever it is that's in charge of that, and just dismiss yourself from it, let go of it. Likelihood is that you can't. And forgiveness generally means exactly what it says, that forgiveness means to let go, to no longer assign blame, to no longer make yourself the victim of all of that negativity, all of the shame, all of the anger, all of the hatred, all of the bitterness. All of that stuff is an alignment that you have with that very kind of energy, and the universe will just keep offering you experiences that are going to match that. And you're going to find yourself being bitter, and you're going to find yourself being upset, and so on. The best way around all of this is that I have found is to take those people that you think were the most demonic, the ones who did the most damage, and to have them in your own mind become your greatest teachers, to see them as teachers. And all of those experiences that have gotten you, see, you're now into March, and you're not thinking suicidal, you're not depressed, you're not, as a matter of fact, you're moving into a higher and a higher place right now. I can feel it right now for you, Dominic.
Yeah, I do feel that way, yeah.
Yeah, and something's coming really good for you very, very soon. Probably within just a matter of days or weeks, that you're going to see that without that experience of whatever it is that you had to go through, you wouldn't be able to get to this place now where you can now look back on your depression and your fears and your anger and all of that. So those were great. Those are great, great teachers. And sometimes you really need to move in life. You need to make a decision. You need to change jobs. You need to change relationships. You need to change cities. Very often, these are the kinds of things that internally you absolutely know that you no longer can function at the level you'd like to function in the place that you are. So the universe, or God, whatever you want to call it, begins to give you all kinds of options to do it. But because of your fear, because you're just so used to being in the place that you've always been, you just continue to hang on there. And then ultimately what happens is that need to change, it turns into something where you don't have any choice anymore. Now you're going to start getting sick. Now you're going to start getting, depressed. Now you're going to, and all of that. So look upon all of them as great teachers to help you to move into a higher and higher place.
Yeah. I mean, I really would like to move on from it, actually, and I know that I need to change my life, and that job is not for me, but I'm having difficulty just letting it go and moving on, and there's some sort of sense of shame or failure attached to it. Is that something I just need to come to terms with myself?
Absolutely. No, convert it to love. Send all of those people love. So if the best thing that you can do when we hang up this phone, which we're going to do in just a second, is to send some flowers or send a book to the person who you think was the most antagonistic towards you, and then be gone with it. Okay?
That's
God bless you, Nobody.
Dr. Dyer, let's continue on with some of our callers today. Boy, the board is just slammed with people trying to get a hold of you, so making my job pretty hard because I have to sift through them all and think who needs to hear the advice the most. Oh, my goodness. And it is tough. How about Carrie? She's calling from Memphis, Tennessee. Carrie, welcome to the program today.
Hi, Summer. Hi, Dr. Dyer.
Hi, Carrie.
Nice to talk to you.
Likewise. Is Elvis still there? Is Elvis in the building?
They say he's alive and well.
Yes. He's in everywhere I go to. Every time I go to Memphis, he's there.
Yeah, that's right. I love your work. I have a question. I don't even know if you can answer, but can you give me some advice on how to raise my children? I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, and I struggle with disciplining them, yet not trying to have them lose their creativity or their own person, but raise them, with my beliefs, but then have them keep their beliefs. I struggle with the balance, and then when I get to discipline, the spanking or timeout or, the proper way to discipline them, to not break them. So I'm really struggling with that.
Yeah, it's a big game. It really is. I know. I have 8 children, and I still struggle with it, and I struggle with my 40-year-old, and I struggle with my 18-year-old. and everyone in between. So it's not anything that ever goes away. I wrote a book about all of this years back called What Do You Really Want for Your Children, which is a paperback that you can find. It's not a Hay House book, but I think they can probably give you information on how to get it.
Okay.
And also, I've written some children's books: Incredible You, Unstoppable Me, and there's another one. It's not what you've got. There's 3 now. But I think the central issue, the central thing around parenting for me came out of a line from Khalil Gibran in The Prophet when he said, "Your children are not your children. They are the products of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but not for you." And I think always keeping that in mind, that these are not your possessions, and also that your children are not apprentice people. You know, it's not like they're on their way to becoming something else. They are whole, they are complete, they are total right now. Right. Just like you are. You know, we're all we're always in a constant state of movement and a constant state of flux. And to practice as much as you can. The Tao will be very helpful. Have you read my new book, Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life? Do you have that?
I do have it.
I'm
reading it.
Yeah, it's a slower read, and it's a little harder read. It really is. But one of the biggest things about that is that you find your truth in nature, and that you know, there's a wonderful poetic line that says, "The things we love, we have to learn to leave alone." How much can we practice non-interference? How much can we, you know, we can't take a 2-year-old and allow them to go out and play in the driveway when there's cars outside, you know, obviously. Right. But on the other hand, you know, you don't want to become one of those hovering, what they call helicopter parents, who are constantly hovering over their children all the time and interfering and correcting them and so on. So being able to find that balance between when I interfere, it is for their safety and it is for what is absolutely best for them. But if it's for me, if it's because I need to, you know, be this authoritarian person, or I need to have them be subservient to me and pay attention to me and listen to me, and I'm the boss and they're small and they don't have a right to, you know, that's where you have to really just begin to practice this non-interference thing. I have found that when I say to my children, when they ask me what to do, or even when I'm telling them what to do, that the less I say, but most often what I say very often to my children, and did throughout all of the years of raising them, is that you know the right thing to do. You really know. Even as a 3-year-old, you know, a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old fighting with each other, and a 4-year-old pushes a 2-year-old, you can remind them that they know what the right thing to do is, that being pushed around isn't something that you would like, and I'm just asking you to do what you know inside of your heart is the right thing to do. In other words, to take your role as the one who's constantly telling them what to do and telling them how to be and where they should go and what they should think and all of that, to let that go and to remind them that just because they share your genetic background doesn't mean that they share the same goals and aspirations and what they're going to do in their lives. And all of us, I think, can recognize and understand that, you know. Okay. That's about as much as I can say in the little bit of time that I have. I think just, you know, love them. You love the things we love for what they are. Just love them for what they are. And remember, even though they have the same mother and the same father, those 2 kids are very, 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 very different and may have very different ways to go in their lives.
Right. Does discipline even exist then?
Discipline, I think discipline, yeah, but I don't ever think that it's right to lay a hand on another human being.
Yeah,
I just don't think it's. I don't think it can be. And I must say there have been times in my life, I'm sure, that I slipped and slap them on the butt and things like that. But almost always that was my inability to either remove myself from the scene. One of the most important things that I used to tell mothers over and over again, as when I wrote my book on raising children, was find a place, especially if you got more than one child who do a lot of fighting around you, and they do it for you. You know, find a place in your house, usually the bathroom. I used to call it go to the bathroom. And in there, put your reading material in there, put a little glass of wine in there, if that's what whatever it is, little refrigerator, whatever, and close that door. And when they start the arguing, the minute that they start the arguing, you don't say a word to them. You just dismiss yourself from the room. You get up and you excuse yourself, and you're gone. So that now, if they're going to do that fighting or that arguing or the pushing, whatever it is, they don't have the audience, which is what they're looking for. And almost always, their very, very, very favorite audience is mommy. Okay. You know, mommy's the one that they do most of that. For Summer, you might want to add something to that, having 2 little ones yourself as well. But
I don't have any fantastic tricks up my sleeve at this point.
You got a tiny little baby there, though, yet. So it won't be long when those two of yours are going to...
Every child is different, and what works for one it may not work for the other, and that's all that I have been able to piece together.
When I wrote
go ahead.
When I wrote What Do You Really Want for Your Children, I wrote it based upon asking that question to many, many, many parents around the country. What do you really want for your children? And what you really want for your children is not for them to be disciplined and not for them to do what they're told and not for them to fit in and all of that. What you want for them is to be happy, to have a sense of purpose, to feel loved, to feel like they are, strong, important people. And each one of the chapters of that book is based upon what you really want for your children. And it's usually not to have someone who's... And by the way, children who are obsequiously always obeying their parents, always without ever questioning, generally grow up to have the highest levels of prejudice because they're taught to not think for themselves, but to think like how their parents think.
Right.
And if you want to have prejudiced children, then that's what'll happen. Okay.
Well, we don't want that. Thank you for your time and advice.
Okay. God bless you. Thank you for calling.
Too.
Namaste.
Oh, Carrie. Well, good luck to her. You caught me off guard with that question.
She's only got two. I think two. My goodness, I could do two and play a tennis tournament.
Yeah, but and you would say, wouldn't you, that every one of them you have had to modify your parenting style a bit to address their own unique spirit. I mean, that's what I really had to work on.
And with it's like a great coach. I mean, the greatest coaches in any athletic are people who don't have one particular way of coaching and expect everybody to fit into it all the time. They recognize that some kids need to be sat down and talked to. Some, a pat on the back will work better. Some, a little crack on the behind works better. Some, if you withhold privileges, it works better. And they know exactly what it is that works to motivate each and every one of those people. And they use whatever it is that they need to do rather than say, this is my philosophy and you got to fit into it, because a lot of them just won't.
Yeah. I also think that if she's at the point where she's asking, if she's already self-aware and self-conscious of her parenting, she's probably doing fine. It's the parents who aren't asking themselves that question that are, probably need to.
Well, it's always crucial also as a parent to look at your children and recognize that they're not going to be the way you think they should be. They're going to be what they came to be.
Very true. Dr. Dyer, let's get one more caller in. Maybe two, but I think we need to speak with Erica in Springfield, Illinois. She's on line 9. Erica, welcome to our program today. You are live with Dr. Wayne Dyer.
Hi.
Hi, Erica.
Hi.
How are you?
Gosh, I love you, Dr. Dyer.
Oh, thank you. I love you too.
Thank you. First, I listened to your show last week, and it was so powerful, and I just wanted to share for some of your listeners, because I know a lot of people listen to you and are going through a really hard time. I've been thinking a lot about kind of the power of tragedy and how there's a blessing hidden in all of it.
Mm-hmm.
And my own experience with this is that my mom died a couple of years ago of cancer, and I'm an only child, and so I took care of her the last 7 weeks of her life just by myself around the clock, no nurse, no help, and it was the hardest thing I've ever had to go through. I was almost broken physically and emotionally, but now 2 years down the road, it's such a blessing that I have to say that was the biggest gift my mother ever gave me, and the best thing that happened to me in my entire life. I mean, I miss my mom every single day, but, the way that I've grown and let go of fear and learned to let go of people is just, it was worth it. I don't know what I can say. I'm just so grateful to my mom.
The taking care of her, was it like total, completely, like putting her on the toilet and taking her off and bathing her and feeding her? What did you do?
And getting up at midnight when she would throw up and sitting up with her while she threw up all night and all of it.
Yeah. Can you reverse the roles and remember when you were throwing up, when you were just unable to help yourself and a tiny little infant, and that was, I'm sure, your mom doing the very same thing for you that you were doing for her. I've never forgotten that. I remember when my grandmother was dying and my mother was taking care of her mother, and she was mashing up a banana because my grandmother was too sick at that time to even be able to chew a banana, so she would mash it up, and she actually would sometimes take it and put it in her own mouth and just mash it up herself and make it almost liquidy and then put it in her mother's mouth. And she said to me, that's exactly, because she remembered, because she had little brothers and sisters, she said, that's exactly what my mother used to do for her babies, and now it's my turn to be able to give back. And instinctively, built into every single one of us, especially the feminine energy in the female, there's this internal instinct to offer and provide and to take care of and to reach out and to serve and to give. It's exactly what I talked about on the Ellen Show last week, that when you get to that place that Lao Tzu calls this the virtues, living from the great virtues, when you forget yourself, when you just reach out and offer, what you are doing, other than just being a great servant and a wonderful person, what you are doing is you're acting the way God acts. You're living what is called a God-realized life. And in those 7 weeks that you had in order to be able to serve and to offer, you were probably as close to God as you've ever been since you've been here on this planet. Because you were...
It was heartbreaking, but at the same time, I felt this deep sense of peace inside that helped me get through it. And I was only able to let go of her, well, first because, she obviously was going to a better place than what she was experiencing, but I felt like I had done everything I was called to do, and so I had no, regrets. I just felt like it was the way it was supposed to be.
Right. Well, the great lesson for you now, though, is to be able to take that great learning that you had, even though it was frustrating and difficult and you were tired and all of those kinds of things, but to go past that and to begin to realize that in the moments that you were in a space of letting go of your ego and just reaching out and forgetting about yourself, just doing that. They say that in the presence of the God realized, the laws of the material world do not apply. This is really important closing for this show. When in the presence of the God realized, that means in the presence of those who are out there just reaching out and serving and doing nothing more, then the laws of the material world do not apply. I remember Mother Teresa saying to a close friend of mine when he didn't know what to do, she said, tomorrow morning, get up at 4 a.m. and go out onto the streets and find someone who's living there, who believes that they're alone, and convince them that they're not. That's what you can do, and that's what you were doing with your mom. I honor you for sharing that with us today. God bless you.
Thank you. I hope it helps someone else out there as well.
It will, definitely will.
Thanks so much for your call, Erica, and thank you, Dr. Dyer, for spending another hour of your time with us this week.
My pleasure. God bless you. Namaste to everyone.
To watch another amazing Wayne Dyer video, check it out right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
I feel myself moving into a new phase in my life, a new stage. I've always said that there are different callings that we have in our life, and now I'm called to try to make myself